Welcome, friends. It's almost midnight, and you've found your way to the PikeCast. Come along as we careen through the catalog of the most formative horror writer of our young adult days, Christopher Pike. From adult perspectives, we'll revisit these YA books our parents probably would never have let us read had they known what lie inside. We tackle one book per episode in a freewheeling and unbiased chat. So grab your battered paperback, pull the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, climb under your bed covers, and devour a good book with us. Greetings, fellow Pikers, and welcome to the PikeCast. I'm Cooper Beckett, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my lovely co-host, Cassie.
Hello.
Today, we're digging into Christopher Pike's 1995 adult novel, The Listeners, and we're going to be discussing it in great detail, spoiling each and every plot twist, so consider yourself warned. If you're enjoying the PikeCast, please leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice and tell your friends. Let's welcome back our guest piker this week, Hailey Piper. She's the author of numerous horror books, including The Worm and His Kings and short story collection Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy. Seems like you're staking your claim on Pike's adult books here, Hailey.
You know what? I've had two very interesting experiences now, so who knows?
Well, yeah, it's funny how different these books are, and how I don't think I ever would have really noticed how much Pike sort of melds together, because he is using a lot of the same themes and ideas, and it's kind of fascinating reading it the way we are here.
I love it. I mean, not even just like the book in general, but I just mean the way that there are so many things that are like similar. Because like, I guess when I was 13, I really thought there would be a lot more reptile creatures in fiction just as I got older, and then there wasn't. Well, eventually, Hailey, there was, which has been fantastic, let me tell you. But like, so I had this expectation, and I didn't really know why I had this expectation
because apparently Pike.
Yeah, revisiting these, like everyone that has something like that, I'm like, yes.
Well, it was funny, Hailey, Cassie and I were talking, and she was just getting into the book, and she's like, there's a lot of FBI here.
Yeah.
Said, don't worry,
in quotes, because it was.
Don't worry, lizard people.
Yeah, that's true. That made me keep going, because I read this one when I was younger, but I don't remember it at all. I remember something about twins. That's all I remembered. And so I didn't remember reptile anything. And so when Cooper told me that this morning, I was like, all right, sold. Here we go.
Don't worry, lizard people.
Like, I went in completely unknowing anything.
Me too, yeah.
So I was just like, I'm getting some scavenger hunt and season of passage vibes. And then it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I like the adult ones get wild, and I'm not expecting it because they feel so similar to the teen ones. But like, obviously they're all adults, but like, you can't really, they all act the same. Like, there's.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I was saying, I think I messaged you on Insta, Cassie. It was just like, his adult books feel like he has to go extra at points though to prove that they're adult. Like, it can't just be, they're like, this is an adult book with adult characters, or I'm going to use some like more sophisticated language and stuff. It has to be like, this was the FBI guy who liked killing people.
Yes, I love, and it's so funny because you can see he's like, okay, so we were at like a solid like PG-13 rating before, and now we're going rated R. Like, and he just goes so hard with it.
How can he show he's tough? Well, he's going to burn the penis off of a mafia don.
That was wild. I told you, Cooper, and just for the sake of saying this, I really think that if Becca were still here, she would really like a lot of scenes in this book. Because
I think so too.
This was like a graphic book. And
also cutting the fingers off of that hostage, and just like,
there's something
let's get to rapid fire before we dive in. So, starting with the back of the book, Cassie, you want to give that a read?
Yes. FBI agent David Connor is investigating the listeners, a channeling group that seems to have access to highly classified information. Though he quickly falls in love with Lucy, one of the twins who are the heart of the group, David remains skeptical about the listeners' power, until an astonishing experience convinces him that they really can reach into humanity's past and carry ancient wisdom to the present. But wisdom is not all that lurks in the past, awaiting innocent discovery. The listeners have tapped into an ancient evil that intends to remake first David and the woman he loves, and then all of mankind in its own horrifying image. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, The Back has Fallen to Darkness and Season of Passage, which are two of my top favorites. Road to Nowhere's on the top two. This is the back of this book. I'm pleased with the back of this book. This has so many stunners. Like, if I just picked this one up and read it alone, I'd be like, okay, this is all right. Like, let me look into the back. Okay. And I hope I would have picked up Season of Passage next, because that would have been a good follow-up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of this is making me wish that I read these back when I was younger, because my 15-year-old self would have devoured these adult books. Mm-hmm. I especially like the Road to Nowhere quote here. The book reads like a movie unfolding with flashbacks, action scenes, and the big final revelation.
That it will be popular beyond belief is a given.
Is a given. Okay.
I didn't read the back of the book before I started reading the book, but I did glance at it, and I noticed that all of the blurbs were for other Christopher Pike books, and I kind of got a bad feeling. Just like, why aren't there blurbs for this book?
I think, and they did this a lot with those drugstore paperbacks, because these were often a quick turnaround, and they were often just directly to publish. They didn't send out advanced review copies. It was just, it'll come out when it comes out.
Yep.
So what do we put on the back? Well, let's put quotes about other books on the back. You know, you see that a lot on those horror paperbacks.
I like that this one had one of our personal favorites that we mentioned last time when we read the Season of Passage, because on the front it says a back prickler. And we were like, why would you say back prickler instead of spine tingler? Like, what the heck? It just brings it back, and that made me happy when I looked at the cover. Also, we're going to discover the cover, because we are going to
discover the cover.
Yes.
Maybe that was just a common... Like, maybe that was a common phrase in the mid-90s that's just been forgotten.
Oh,
well, like somebody did tell me that far out was a common Valley Girl phrase in the 80s, and I didn't know that.
You've never heard far out?
Well, I've heard far out, but far out was like a 60s term.
Oh, so you mean like brought back for like...
Yeah, I didn't know that it came back in the 80s, and it seemed so weird in the Final Friends books. But I've been corrected, so maybe back prickly is a term
like
that was being used back then.
Yeah.
Just like
I want to know what makes it different from spine tingling. Like, is so maybe this is like, because this one's more graphic, it prickles your back, whereas if it scared you more, it would tingle your spine. Like, there has to be some.
I think somebody got a thesaurus and spent way too much time with it.
Oh, I want to believe there's more reason.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe there is. We should find that reviewer and demand an explanation. So, back of the book, pretty accurate. Focuses a little too much on David and Lucy as being the ultimate focus of these beings. I am glad I didn't read the back of the book beforehand.
The people in the, like Lucy and them, are they the listeners, or were the listeners the people from before?
I think they're all the listeners.
Oh, so they're just because they're all doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anybody
I think anyone who's doing this type of
that
regression.
Makes sense. Because I thought it was like what they specifically called the group, but then I was like, wait, so is this the same group, but like later? I'm so confused. Like, why? Okay,
I mean, in the book, they're never actually the listeners.
Yeah, right.
They just mention offhand. So it's interesting. I wonder if there was another title at some point. Like Lizard Spacemen.
Not as catchy, but
from the past.
I can see it selling.
From the far past.
From the ancient past, because they were very ancient.
Prehistoric.
Oh.
So let's talk about the artwork here.
Yes.
Joe DeVito did this artwork.
You came prepared. Look at you.
I did.
Wow.
I'm just so happy I enjoyed a book, honestly.
Do you have the flip
after
cover?
3 episodes of
That's
Final
fair, yeah.
Friends,
I
was
was
feeling
burnt
pretty
out a
down.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we did like the last one, but that was just because we were just scraping for anything at that point to
I mean, we
enjoy.
liked it in comparison.
Yeah, but this
it was a
better.
lot on you guys.
Yeah,
It was,
that was
yeah,
it was unusual punishment. Really.
It was. I really feel like. Can you imagine too if we had to do like "Remember Me" 3 in a row? Like, oh
Oh
gosh.
God, yeah.
Like,
I'm glad we did this in the middle.
yeah, same.
So we've got 2 people on here. They're supposed to be twins, but one has a much longer nose. I don't know if you noticed that.
I think it's just the shadow. The way the shadow is on there, it makes her nose look different.
Oh, well, that could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got this little cutout revealing the Incredible Hulk inside.
The yellow Hulk.
Yellow Hulk or Angry. You remember Teletubbies?
Yes.
How there was the little baby in the sun?
But he's aged. He's much older now.
Very old, angry baby in the sun.
He has sharp teeth.
Yeah.
Jeez, he looks like something out of Charmed or like Buffy. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it's definitely not.
It's so good.
Selling me on Lizard Man.
No,
that's for sure. It's not. Maybe vampire.
I bet it's supposed to be Francis.
Oh,
okay.
Yes, I think you're right.
Which doesn't totally make sense, but I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no. I get it too. That does. I think you're right. Yeah.
It also just feels like a major afterthought. It's like, here's a picture of 2 women.
No, you don't. Don't you have the opening, Cooper?
I do.
Oh, you do.
No, but it feels like we need to spice this up.
Right.
What could we have cut out? I don't know.
A face.
Angry yellow sun guy.
What's
I
funny
like
is like when you flip open the cover and they have the picture of them doing the seance thing, that looks like a YA cover to me.
It does. I like it better though. I wish that was like the actual full cover. I love their outfits. They look like little bumblebee like twins. They're so cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
It is. I think so. It is weird too because aren't there supposed to be more of them?
Yes.
Well, there are so many people.
Yeah.
Again,
it's weird the ones they chose here.
Like it's like I don't think these are, aside from the twins, I'm not sure these are supposed to be anyone in particular.
Well, that was probably the information given to the artist.
Right.
Yeah, I think he was like 2 twins with red hair. There's a chunky white guy. There's maybe somebody from India. And then there's like a white guy, like an extra white dude. Like,
and he's gay if it matters.
Yeah, no, I definitely they seem to have.
No, but Dr. Henry's black, so it can't be him.
Yeah, I have a question about that as we get into it. So we should, So cover and back of the book reasonably accurate.
Reasonable.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
Yeah. I like that we can see the twins in 2 different ways. They're 2 different. The front, the cover set of twins reminds me it would be his like wife and her sister. And then the inside is like the 2 girls now.
Yeah. You know what? That makes a lot of sense.
If that is those twins though, that's why the baby or the weird face is on the cover. It's because that's her later on, right? That's Francis.
That's
so
true.
This is pretty Francis.
I love that we've all just decided it's the baby.
Teletubby Francis.
That's why they Teletubby baby.
I just want to give reason for why that they chose, and it's such an awkward shape for the cutout too, and it just ends at her nose.
It's
so weird. It makes it look like a mistake, like it wasn't supposed to be ripped out.
I thought it was ripped wrong on my book, and I had to look at it online, and I was like, oh no, that is right. Hang on.
And that the face is positioned so weirdly in it. Right. It's like it needs to move up and to the right.
Oh yeah. Well, the spine on mine too. Yeah. If you open it up, the spine is a little bit. I don't know. It's just it's not my favorite.
It's strange.
The inside is good. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You can go on.
Well, let's move into inside the book with the Midnight Club and start our list of a ridiculous number of characters that don't need to be here, which is really a cornerstone of any Pike book.
I will say that at least they all didn't take turns being the protagonist, like with the cold one.
That's fair.
You really didn't like the cold one.
I really did. But here, okay, so we have pretty much it's just David and Ned as the protagonist, like the POV, and then everyone else is supporting characters. And I'm like, that's fine. I can keep track of that.
True. Although we do get some POV from Lucy.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
She's the only other one that we really get POV from.
You're right. I forgot about that.
But that's really minimal for
actually, and Dr. Henry I think had one scene too, but that's pretty minimal. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Not like the cold one.
Well, let's start with our protagonist, David Connor. He's a bad FBI agent. Well, he's a good FBI agent. He's just a bad guy.
Dirty Dave.
Dirty Dave, which sounds different when you disassociate it from Dirty Harry. And it, it really just shows that Dirty Harry is a nickname only because it's Dirty Harry. Because the moment you put another name in there, it just sounds weird. Dirty Dave sounds weird.
Right, he just sounds like Pigpen.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry also sounds weird. It sounds like I'm describing somebody's like physical like clothes or something. Like, oh, those are dirty and hairy.
It does, but because we've had decades of Dirty Harry being a thing, right, it sounds normal.
I've had nearly 2 decades of Dirty Dave, my friend. So I first read this when I was
how often do you talk about Dirty Dave?
Okay, look, you got me there, but how often do I talk about Dirty Harry?
Well, that's true. I mean, every time Clint Eastwood comes up, I pine for the days when he was not crazy.
Yeah.
But, so David Connor had shot 3 people in his life, blown up 3, and burned another to death. This is the first line of the book.
I know. It's an amazing first page that is just already bonkers.
It really is. He's 39 years old, 15-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I appreciated he was a little bit older because I'm sick of these youngins being the leads.
13 books, Cooper.
No, I'm talking about the adult books. They're always like 32.
Okay, fair.
David stood 6 foot even. He'd been a champion swimmer in college and had come within 0.2 of a second of qualifying for the 100-meter butterfly for the Olympics. They're really building him up. He still had a swimmer's tapered body, but these days got his exercise practicing martial arts. He was fit, quick, strong. He could kill with his hands if he needed to, but he preferred a 10-millimeter semi-automatic pistol for messy work. Wait for it. His father had been Irish, his mother Italian. As a result, his cheeks reddened when he drank, and his hands became animated. His hair and eyes were dark. He had inherited his mother's wide, sensual mouth, her olive skin.
I love that Pike has a type. He's like, I don't care who. Like, it can be anybody as the main character. They
Anyone
have to have
he
a
likes
wide,
or doesn't like, it doesn't matter. Good, bad, they have wide, sensual mouths.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it makes me want to put that in one of my books as an Easter egg for Pike.
You got to give him green eyes, too.
Yeah, green eyes, red hair, and a wide, sensual mouth.
That's it. Perfect peak Pike.
So, I mean, okay. So the beginning of this book is, let's just say, very different from the rest of this book. Yes. We spend all this time with David as the FBI agent. We learn about his previous cases. It's a very hard-boiled noir-type story at the beginning. And they give us hard-boiled lines like, that was one of the reasons David was quitting the FBI. He didn't believe in God anymore, or for that matter, truth, justice, and the American way.
He's so dramatic and angsty, dude. Like, the entire book, he is so angsty for, like, a grown-ass man. I'm just like, what are you? Do you just walk around sulking like Batman all day? Like,
totally. No, he's Batman. Yeah.
Like, he's so like silly. The guy, like, you can't shoot me. And David clacked the hammer. Why not? I like shooting people.
They're all like, you're FBI. Not one of the good ones. Punk.
I love that when they say that. He's just like, so what? And it's just like, oh my God.
And, despite this really overwrought thing, I like this character.
No, I mean, his exhaustion is relatable.
Yeah. I mean, we're all exhausted these days.
That's true.
But he did indeed have a nasty hangover. Now it felt as if his blood were being fed through a 2-horsepower motor before it was rammed into his swollen brain. He'd chewed 4 Tylenol dry on the drive-in and was wondering if they needed a gulp of whiskey to start working.
He's a wild one.
Yeah, but he's almost to retirement. And then we get his friend Ned Callender, who is at retirement.
2 weeks from retirement.
Yeah.
Why is he so much older, though?
Well, I mean, David's leaving because he wants to leave.
Okay, so Ned's
leaving because he has aged out of the position.
Yeah, you can only be so old in the FBI before they kick you out.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, I think they just encourage you to, go live off your
there's
pension.
a maximum. Like,
is there a maximum?
Yeah, it's a solid, it's a set point once you age.
Because in there he said you have to be between a certain age and age, right?
Yeah.
Or was that just to get brought into it?
I don't know.
He said you had to go to 4 years of
certain
school
age,
and blah, blah, blah.
they force you to retire.
And if you say no, they're just like, no choice, goodbye.
Right, you're done.
Dang. Well, I mean, at least you know that going in, though. So it's not like a surprise, like, hey, happy 70th birthday, get the fuck out.
Well, and just remember that, while us creative types will never understand this, those who work for the government have an amazing pension that kicks in after retirement, which basically guarantees they can, live happily as retired people, whereas we will probably work until we die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Great.
Let's talk about Ned Callender. He was a tall man, gangly, with a cluster of faint liver spots that chased his thinning, sandy hair up the northern hemisphere of his skull. He had intense blue eyes that changed shade with the burdens of his position, which, make no mistake, were great. He was fit. He had run 10Ks until 6 months ago when he broke a bone in his foot, kicking a mob informant who had James Bond fantasies of being a double agent.
There's so
Ned's
much
also
there.
kind of dirty, I guess.
But not as dirty.
That was just the way the FBI worked back then.
At least to Pike.
Yeah. I mean, I do get strong Silence of the Lambs echoes in this book. We've got the FBI background, and then actually more Red Dragon. And then we've got, Francis Cumberly basically being Hannibal Lecter, but a lizard person.
I mean, that's how you improve all of the, police procedural thrillers.
Yeah, just but a lizard person.
Yep. Throw more lizards and things.
Now, I feel like Ned got kind of the same role that I don't remember any of the characters' names from the Cold One, but wasn't there someone just flying all over the country while everyone else was learning stuff?
The main character.
Oh, yeah, he was the main character, right.
What was his name? Dave? No, wait, this is this one. Hang on. His name's not important. I remember Jerry Washington.
David too. Who knows?
He might have been.
Hold on, I'm looking at Cold One.
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't you have the notes?
Peter Jacobs was his name.
Peter, that's right.
Forgettable, though.
Yeah. He was no Dirty Dave, that's for sure.
No Dirty Dave, indeed. Ned's also a decent character. I mean, these characters are fairly tropey.
But they have, the first chapter is just them talking in Ned's office, and it felt very fluid. Like, they had you could tell they had a good camaraderie. There wasn't a bunch of posturing and stuff between them, as opposed, the prose was very posturing. But the conversation between them was just like, no, they have a good understanding between each other. Like, Ned is kind of like having to push Dave into, doing this assignment, but they were pretty easy with each other. It's like, okay, it was establishing them as pretty, likable characters, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the next 60 pages happens.
Well, I mean, they go out of their way to show us the Dirty Dave aspects of David Connor. I mean, we can talk about that early, or we can talk about that in plot. It's up to you.
We can talk about that in plot. I just was I just wanted to point, just because they're pretty much the only two characters for the first chapter, so it's just made sense to kind of mention. It's like, yeah, they seem like they have a good relationship.
Mm-hmm. But you're right about the posturing. And David comes across as very glibly posturing the moment he meets anyone other than Ned.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lucy Temple. and by extension, Vera, because Vera doesn't get chapters describing her because she's Lucy's twin.
You just double it. It's all.
So there's Lucy, which we're going to talk about now, and just picture Vera as being a sad, quiet version. Because that's really what we've been given here. But Lucy loved to swim naked in a cool lake, especially with a cute guy. Not that she was a tramp. I love those. That's become a very Pike thing, I've noticed. No, but she's not a slut. Okay.
Just in case, misconceptions.
She's just sexy and sassy and fun.
Well, and she's confident in her sexuality because she had only slept with 5 guys in her life. Not many, she thought, for a 28-year-old redhead.
Do redheads?
The redhead part is important.
Redheads have more sex. Blondes have more fun, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, is that a saying?
No,
it's not a saying. I'm just guessing.
I was like, I've heard the blonde part. I don't think I've ever heard the other one.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know where Pike lives. Maybe it's a local.
I just imagine he's only had like 3 girlfriends: a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, and he bases all of the characters ever after these 3 women.
And he can't date anyone else because he's covered the bases.
Yeah, and plus, like, he would have to go back and rewrite them if the redhead does something uncharacteristically redhead.
That's true.
Yeah.
And God forbid, what if the redhead does not have green eyes? See, David stared into her soft green eyes. One of the things about Lucy Temple that he liked already was that she was not self-conscious of her beauty, which was not the same as saying she was unaware of it. She knew how to flirt, bat her long lashes, toss her head of red curls, and giggle. She loved to giggle, yet her flirting seemed to come naturally. There it is again, the yet.
Do you want to? I'm going to tell you about like a fun little Cassism. Anytime I read in the book that a girl like tosses her head, I literally physically picture the girl holding her head and tossing it like in a really grotesque way. So she just tosses her like curly red head, and I'm just like, whoa, girl, like don't do that.
Think fast, David.
It pulls me out of it every time because I don't know why. Ever since I was like young, when I read that, I'm like, whoa, girl, like you're going bowling, like settle down.
Yeah, we do it in Iowa.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is. We just had a whole lot of ass discussion in the last book of the Final Friends. And in this one, we've got Lucy saying, just think about how many guys will want to go out with modern day witches. Lucy pulled down her shorts and mooned her sister, especially with an ass like this. So Lucy is confident about her ass, I think.
That's good.
That is. We're happy about that. So Lucy and Vera, their parents died when they were 18 in high school, and they got into a bad accident. So we have the absentee parents trope. We have the accident killing both parents trope. We've got a lot of this coming back over and
Skinny dipping.
Skinny dipping, yes. One of Pike's go-tos now, it seems, just almost as much as McDonald's, which does come back, so don't worry about that.
I marked it too.
I marked it too.
I love that we all just have like this tally that we're doing.
It's Cassie's only mark, McDonald's.
Actually, I have 3, but 2 of them, one of them I wrote "what the fuck" next to, and then the other one I think made me laugh. So yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Professor Spear. He is the leader of this gang of listeners, apparently. He's not in the book much. There's a lot more talking about him than interacting with him. And I don't have any notes on his physicality, so I can't tell you what he looks like. Oh, no, he looks like Einstein. I forgot.
Yeah, the wild gray hair.
Yeah, wild hair and a mustache.
Yeah,
and he was thin and like gaunt. I think they mentioned, like they said he looked like he had just gotten out of like the hospital or something. He was tall.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I was thinking Dr. Wily from Mega Man.
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
So Professor Spear, okay, I had some questions at the end of this because I don't feel they actually explain everything.
No.
Was Professor Spear possessed or changed by Francis?
I think
And no, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that they had started to do something to him, but he killed, Penny first.
You're right.
And so I
And so
think
it
it was.
stopped the.
But the weird thing is that he didn't want the twins to do the special meditation.
Do you think he didn't want them to do it without him? Is that
I
the concern?
really don't know, because his motives are all over the place. I really think he just wanted to know more stuff, but they really didn't and they said that his brain was all messed up, but it didn't seem like they messed him up all the way. So I feel like
he had like a 107 fever for a month.
Right. And it's just like, it feels like it almost like because the thing is, the other problem is we didn't really get to see what exactly they have to do to someone.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like something got ticked in his brain, but it definitely didn't make him all the way into the way Francis was.
Right. And they did mention later, after Ned is attacked, that Ned will be fine. So maybe there's...
Really? I missed that somehow.
Yeah,
I thought Ned was dead. I was like...
No, Margaret says Ned will be fine.
Okay, I thought he was dead 2 weeks from retirement. It just seemed like such a...
skinned, I think. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's interesting that they don't spell out everything, because Pike is known for spelling out everything.
Right, and I thought I actually liked that. I liked that it wasn't all explained.
Yeah, it gives you a thing to talk about. It's like, even if you're not analyzing the book like we are, it's still what do you think happened here?
Wait, he killed Penny though? He didn't, I thought.
Okay, well, that's the other question I have.
Yeah.
Is Penny Margaret?
It's not clear.
No, I didn't think Penny was Margaret. I thought he put somehow because he got the lizard 12 years ago, and the lizard's name was Frank. And so I was confused about Francis and Frank. I thought there was going to be some sort of transference with the lizard or
I didn't
iguana or
even
whatever.
think about how old the iguana was.
He specifically was like, I got it 12 years ago, exactly the same time that all that stuff went down, and he doesn't explain exactly what happened when he left with Penny. So
oh my God,
I don't know.
That's
it's
so
weird, right?
That just brings more questions.
It does. And
maybe
her
it's
body
something
was
like
and maybe,
what is that?
What was the book that we read with the animals and the do you know what I mean? What was that one?
What? Give me more.
Spellbound? Was it Spellbound?
Oh yeah.
Spellbound, where they put the person's mind into the animal. I got that sort of vibe from this, and I thought it was going to go in that direction, and then it didn't. But it didn't not. It was kind of there were hints, but they don't specifically say either way. They don't describe how he kills her or what exactly happens, right?
Well, here's
Penny didn't change.
So let me pitch something to you that I think is the answer. I think when these twins do this thing, one of them gets the ancient lizard person, and one of them gets Isis. And possibly only gets Isis after being killed. Because I really think Margaret is Spear's wife, Penny.
I was thinking that, but they said she was she only joined him a year ago.
Oh, did they?
That's what I thought when he called.
They meet in the hospital, I think, because he's in the hospital at the same time as her from her accident, because they recovered together, and they say that they helped each other get through it.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like there was a sort of romantic, they seemed to care about each other, and she was with him and stuff, but I don't know, he didn't seem to have the same relationship that I would expect him to have with Penny.
And she seemed to come out of nowhere, which does suggest that maybe there's some relation with Isis. But
Yeah, I would.
not
Yeah.
a lot of stuff was just not made clear about whether some people were other people. I mean, they seemed to be like implied that he just killed Penny and that was it.
Right.
And it was Margaret talking through those other people during all of their big mind sessions. So
Right,
it wasn't
right.
even
That
big
was
mind,
revealed
it was
too. Which
Margaret has been with Spear since he started this research into the field, it says.
Mm.
So she's been there for a while, which...
But she wasn't enough. Oh my God, this is so weird.
Well, but, okay, so if...
Well, he started the
no
research
one knows
again
where
after.
he buried Penny.
Right.
They only have him saying, I did it.
Right.
That's true.
So then they come back, he's in the hospital, and there's a person who came from nowhere.
Right.
Who appears to have undergone similar transformation,
with
losing
a broken spine, and they said the mirror was cracked.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like that's what they were setting up, maybe, and I was waiting for Ned to officially recognize her.
Right.
Ooh, what if he, okay, now I have a theory. What if he fractured, just pretend he has some powers. He fractured Penny's soul, and her previous memories and everything that she was is now locked in the iguana. But everything after, as an amnesiac or whatever, like, she doesn't remember anything, and she's now Margaret.
Yeah.
But also because she's, like, went through this change and was connected and is still, like, the broken part of the mirror, she still has access to all of these things, and that's how she's speaking through them and stuff.
So to further complicate things, even from that, they suggested that the big mind of the past was all of the lizard people because that they had like joined psychic links and such, so that there was no real individual. It was just kind of like a big mind kind of like working through all these bodies.
Like the Borg.
Yeah.
But they also, like, they throw God in here a few times.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if we're expecting to, so the big mind doesn't turn out to be evil.
Right.
Which I thought it would.
It reminded me of the presence from the Starlight Crystal.
Yes, very much so. But so if we extrapolate that and add Margaret's powers, because she has them.
Yeah.
She healed a bunch of people with broken backs. And then...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That was such a random throwaway thing they just put in there. Like, they didn't even really... It was just one, like, page.
Right, Ned talks to the guy about it, and then it just never comes up again.
Yeah.
Although, I guess it does because she because of what happens with Lucy and Vera.
Yeah, yeah. There's okay. Let's move on, and we've got more characters. And we've got a lot of.
Oh, I forgot we were still in the characters. I'm so sorry.
We're still in characters. Yeah.
What a book.
So that's Margaret.
Oh my God! All that's Margaret.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Let's also say Margaret's very sweet. She's in a wheelchair. She's always knitting. She's like the dorm mother. Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I just need to go over this because I read this really quickly, obviously, this morning, and I had this scene that I thought I remembered from this book, and I don't think it happened, and now I'm confused. I had this scene that she was down in her wheelchair next to the river, and that, like, David walks down to the river to go get her, and she's, like, face down, like, drowned.
I didn't remember reading that.
I mean, she was down by
the river.
River, yeah.
She was not drowned. She was not, like, it was a tragic. Do you remember? Do either of you know that from anything that maybe I could have confused it in something that was similar to this for some reason? Like, my brain would have crossed that.
Hamlet.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't. It's so strange because I was reading it, I kept expecting that, and then when I finished the book, I was like, Margaret didn't drown in the river. Like, maybe I missed this, and I was like, I'm gonna ask because I'm not gonna go back and look for it. Like, okay. I guess that's just one of those things that, like, you remember. I don't remember what they're called. The something effect. I forgot.
The Mandela effect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Apparently, Margaret drowning in the river is that for me.
But I mean, there is every likelihood there is another Pike book where a woman in a wheelchair is found face down in the river.
A woman exactly like her, so sweet and kind, and like has this like otherworldly like mental like ability, you know, like she's like very like, and then the guy like walks down to go see her. He's like, oh, I got to get her for lunch or something. And he's like, oh God, like, you know, like it was a tragic, impactful moment. And I thought it was this book. And
Well, I mean, you are combining the way he meets her down by
I
the
know, that's why I
lake
was
in the
reading it, and
wheelchair.
and then I kept thinking, okay, cool, this is when he meets her, and then they're gonna come full circle when he comes up to her again, and she's dead, and that doesn't happen, and I was so thrown off.
Wow.
That's all I have left to say about Margaret is that she didn't die the way I thought
Fair.
she would.
She didn't die. She just disappears.
Yeah, upstairs in somebody's arms.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again, which I'd prefer my way, because at least there was some emotional impact there.
I mean, if she's meant to be like God or Jesus,
Or
her
Isis.
ascending into heaven and appearing out of nowhere makes sense. I don't know. Okay, there are 4 other people at this compound, and there maybe needed to be 2. Maybe. We've got Henry Deering, who's gay. They're pretty progressive about it, but they're still iffy
There
about
are
it.
some missteps, I think.
Yes, but
Yeah.
what the funny thing is, I noticed that a lot of those missteps were from other characters. But
That's
once
true.
No, very true.
But once once he actually shows up, it's honestly pretty fine, really.
Well, and I love that David even kind of flirts with him.
Yeah.
Like, you have a nice ass too.
I think I have it marked. There's the one thing that David said. I was just like, what? I think that's what I wrote, what the fuck, in my book too, but I don't remember specifically. We'll find it when I go through things, but yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't like a huge thing where everybody was like awful about it. And
No,
that was a
that's
big
very
plot
true.
point.
It
So
was just, it was
that
gay
there.
in a very 90s way.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, David found him effeminate but charming. That butt may as well be a yet because it's the same style. It's negging.
Yeah.
Never say something positive without also saying something negative.
I liked when what did he say? Like, I don't remember, and maybe I blanked over it, but I didn't remember a physical description, which was weird for Pike.
No, there wasn't. The black man part.
Right, we don't find that out until he says, I want to be the first gay black man to win the Nobel Prize.
Which I thought was very interesting.
It was strange for Pike.
It is.
I wonder if there was more to it, but then it got edited out. And then
that actually could be, yeah.
Well, especially considering his descriptions of things in the Cold One. It's like, then we find out, like, he starts talking about the Barrio and a bunch of other stuff or whatever. It's like, oh, Pike, why'd you do it? Why'd you do it again?
I was like, no, thrilled. We're not doing it again.
Yeah.
Well, the funny, because this came out before the Cold One.
Oh, God.
So it's just like, so I'm like, what happened to you, Pike, between this book and that book?
Let's talk about a real cipher, Panda Gopal. He's from India.
Somebody else named Panda, wasn't it? Was it the Cold One? Somebody.
Was there someone else named Panda?
I think he named another character in one of the other books Panda, because I remember thinking like
the Cold One had Govinda.
No. I think it was one of the children in one of the books we've read.
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I think it's Panda. I'm not sure.
Panda.
For when it's from India.
Oh yeah.
Isn't he from India?
Yeah.
He is. We call him our sage, though he's not much older than I am. He has extensive philosophical background. He's quiet, gentle. Unless you're talking about God, he doesn't say much. He was shorter than the others, with long black hair and the soulful dark eyes of so many Indians. His manner was reflective, pious. That's really all we get from this guy.
And I guess the big mind talks through him a bit. Is what did I misread that, or
no? They say he does, and that he changes like the way he talks when that's happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, so the big mind really talks through. This is why I think we have too many characters,
which is Margaret again,
and it's not overwhelmingly too many, because we don't spend a lot of time learning about these other characters. But that really just reinforces why they were unnecessary to me.
Yeah,
like Tom Forrester.
Yeah, he's just kind of there to be like kind of a buffer for some things.
He's the truck driver.
Yeah.
Long distance truck driver. He has a really interesting story that he would sing on his long distance rides and listen back and was just talking philosophically about space and picking up psychic stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe Pike just got like he was driving one night and just got this idea and was just like, what if I just like did this? And then he was like, oh, that would be a really cool character. I'm going to put that in a book. We don't really have any other purpose. I just want that part.
Well, that's the thing. If you cut out 3 of these other characters, you could actually spend some time with one of them.
I didn't mind this. I guess I felt like there needed to be a full group. And I didn't mind
true.
because he didn't linger on them. We weren't expected to get them a bunch. They were kind of just like, they were to fill things out and give David some more people to talk to,
or give Lucy someone to eat.
I think that one honestly makes a lot of sense too, because that was my personal like least likable of the extras, and so when he got eaten, I was like,
like there needed to be some cannon fodder.
Yeah, like any of the others, I would have been like, oh, like not the one who found psychic powers while driving, or like not the quiet, like religious one.
No,
like
the one who's kind of like but I'm the most special of the psychic group.
Yeah, I want to be Arnold. Like, okay.
Yeah, right. He wants to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's a spoon
so
bender.
Weird. I get the knives in the hands. Do it quicker.
I like that scene though.
I do too.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of really good scenes I think would have translated really well to screen too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So just one more on Tom Forrester. He was obviously a good old boy, the kind of teddy bear lonely women loved to meet at bars when they were drunk. It's just an interesting line.
Is he the one that they repeatedly described as fat?
No, that was like, or was it? I thought it was Buckley.
Buckley is, yeah.
The one where they were just like he reached his fat hand forward to shake, and I was just like,
that's Buckley.
Have to fucking...
He's Pike's loathsome character in this book,
but he ends up being important. Like,
I know it's interesting in that way. But before we get to Buckley, we have John Horst, who is the spoon bender.
Who is the worst.
He is the worst, and that's it. That's who he is, and who cares?
Who cares? Everything he can do, everybody else can do.
Exactly.
I don't understand why he's
so
there.
Funny because like the whole scene at the dinner where he's like, "Look at me bending the spoon," and Lucy's like, "I can do that. Everyone can do that. Like even the new guy who just showed up can do that."
We taught kids to do that.
Right.
It's like, I did it faster than you. Okay, whatever.
And like the fact that he was a magician with this like wasn't good enough. He's like, I gotta be a movie star. I have to be a movie star.
And he thinks this will make him famous.
A bodybuilder.
Right.
So magician, bodybuilder, movie star.
Didn't do him much good though.
No, did not.
What an interesting combination. It's almost like he wanted more characters.
I think he needed to take on those hobbies because he didn't have a very interesting personality.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's true. He is white bread bland. Yeah. Oatmeal, yeah. Okay, let's move on to Professor Carl Buckley, who, when Ned meets him, instinctively Ned knew that Buckley had secrets to hide and not the wit to do it. Buckley was a fat man with the body the shape of a stuffed laundry bag. His cheeks and jawline were one smooth slab of twitching flesh.
It's so bad. That's so terrible.
That is. That's really mean.
That wasn't even what I was thinking of. I think it was, okay, so I do remember this, but I think the other one that I was talking about being fat was the other guy. The bear man or whatever, because that was the one that they were just like, it's when Dave meets him, not Ned, and he's like, he reaches his
fat hand.
He puts a fat hand forward and gives it a shake, and I was okay, two chunky guys in this
Pike.
Yeah.
It's okay for characters to be fat. That's fine.
You just describe as a
you just
stuffed
don't need to use the word fat in every sentence.
Yeah, it's just like you don't need to remind me about it's not like he leaned his skinny hand forward and stepped a skinny foot step. Like what are you doing?
Exactly,
like,
exactly, Cassie.
Bizarre.
Okay, let's talk about France. Oh, we still have to talk about Carl Buckley.
Oh,
so You're right. He starts out as a real Weasley thing, but he winds up being very important, as he was there when the first set of twins did the thing. He was in love with Frances.
Which really sucks.
Yeah. He tried to help that poor tribal girl.
The Dogon girl.
Yeah. Who just walked off the edge of a cliff because of Frances. Like he had so much trauma in his past that it's like he and David could sit down and talk trauma, and David would have to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's like, you lost 3 people?
He watched the woman he loved eat a child alive.
Yeah. Which is a terrifying image.
Yeah.
It reminds me of in It, when they talk about how Pennywise was trying to bite the heart of Adrian Mellon. With his armpit.
Right. No, I remember vividly.
That's exceedingly horrifying.
Yeah. And just how Frances like psychically made the child stand there.
Yeah,
like
her feet being stuck there and the sister being like unable to pull her away. And like it's so sad. Like these are just extra people that were just living their own life down by the lake, and then this girl just stumbles upon them or whatever, and this mother tries to protect her daughters and fails, and it's just so sad. And the guy is just like, all I can do is try to save this one little girl.
And that's the thing, like how the narrative treats Buckley is not fair, as far as like it's like, oh, this Weasley awful blah blah blah. It's like he does everything he can in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And Ned is a total dick to him when he shows up.
Yes. Yep.
Tell you what, I'm going to come back to your house in the middle of the night, and I'm going to bring my gun. I mean, that is the FBI for you.
He does go into it, though, not realizing like exactly what happened. And he's just trying to get information to help his friend figure something out, because he thinks he's like in some sort of like danger, or that there's something weird going on.
I think Ned thinks he's in an episode of the FBI, which apparently literally everybody in this book has seen.
I've never heard of that show.
It's just an older show. I think it was from the 70s.
Huh.
But it does not make sense that everyone, especially Lucy, would have watched an episode of the FBI, because she mentions it.
Right. I would think that their pop culture for the FBI would be like Twin Peaks and Silence of the Lambs at that point.
I thought that it was fake, and that it was just like a funny little like cheeky like, haha, we watched the FBI.
No, 1965 to 1974.
I thought it was just like, oh, it's like Cops, but the FBI. And it's like, there would never be a show like that.
I didn't think it was real. Yeah, wow.
But a 9-year show with 241 episodes.
Jeez.
241 episodes.
Let's move back to Frances Cumberly. Yeah, this is totally Hannibal Lecter. She's leaning upright against the far wall, wearing a straitjacket. Yeah,
the lights don't work in her room,
right?
But the red light, that was such like an iconic. Like I could picture that so well.
Yeah,
it'd be so creepy. I loved it.
So in combination with the sober red light, her straitjacket and bald head made her appear mummy-like, dug from a tomb. Her expression was grotesque. Had the electroshock destroyed the nerves in her face and left them permanently expressing pain? Her mouth was twisted into a voracious maw. Her nostrils stood up like dripping snouts. Her eyes, as Buckley had forecast, were the stuff of nightmares. A speck of gold swam in the center of each. Her long, pointed tongue raked the air in search of invisible flies. The hiss of her breath was the death rattle of cobras in a pit. That is one paragraph.
Yeah.
For the description. That's wild.
And it's just so mind-blowing, because you read this and it's just like, what in the utter fuck? Because we don't know that it's lizard people yet.
Right. Oh, and I love that they gave us her first.
Right.
I looked at the cover, the baby face Teletubby, while you were saying that, and it's totally, I'm sold. It is 100% Frances on the cover. Like that. That is her.
Baby face Teletubby.
Honestly, now.
What are you doing there, Frances?
That's just
Go
how, but,
home.
well, apparently from what Ned says, that's just how she looks constantly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just her face.
Yeah. Ugh. Oh, I can't look at it now. I'm turning the book over.
Do you
It's
ever do that
creepy. It's a
when you were
creepy
little where
book.
you had to turn the book over on your nightstand so you
Yeah,
didn't
with
see the cover?
goosebumps sometimes.
Oh,
We got a bit here. This is the other Hannibal Lecter thing that reminds me of Chilton saying that he did this to the nurse. You know, as one tiny bit of medical history, the good doctor added that Frances had once escaped from her cell and gouged out and eaten both eyes of a severely retarded 12-year-old boy. I mean, we have problems with the word retarded, but that's also just horrifying.
I think I also, that feels like a little bit of one-upsmanship. It's like Hannibal Lecter
totally.
ate one eye, she's gonna eat two.
Yeah.
also, why, if she ate the other child from the shoulder completion, like, why would you start with the eyeballs?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Frances
doesn't have the
is
powers
this
she had.
powerful without the real power of these
Right.
things.
So all she could really do is get those gooey little balls.
Yeah, no.
That's fair.
Before
yeah.
she
I mean,
could,
but she
like,
can
just
rip her
Her straitjacket.
right.
straitjacket.
But
Yeah.
this is nothing to what she could do back.
That's horrifying.
I think that's what's really interesting about this is we don't really see them at full power, because even when Lucy's at full power, they're in the basement.
Isn't it Vera?
You know what? That's going to be our discussion later.
Okay.
Because they're notably vague about that.
I think it is Vera, though. But
I think
have
so
one
too.
more
I think she
Frances
took the yeah.
The thing licked the back of his hand with a tongue made of burrs and slowly looked him over. Ned thought that something deep in its brain ignited in that moment, burning through its optic nerves, bringing a hot sheen to the coldness of its dragon-like eyes. I look like this, it said. Horrifying.
Yeah.
And great.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, we do have one more character, and it is Pike's token let's shit on him character. Dr. Simon Goldberg, who is unlucky enough to be Francis Cumberly's doctor here, younger than Ned expected. He was the nerdy first-year medical student who never washed his hands after gross anatomy. The lenses on his glasses more rightly belonged on the old and out-of-focus Hubble telescope. He even had a few zits left over from college all-nighters, fueled by chocolate bars and girly magazine posters. Simon acted happy to meet a genuine FBI agent, especially at 1 a.m. We don't need to be mean to Simon.
No.
He doesn't do anything. He didn't hurt anybody.
You're just too eager. Pike's like, nah, we don't like that.
Pike is like 1 a.m. No, this guy's no good. If he's excited at 1 a.m.
He needs to be disgruntled, or I'm not having it.
So those are our characters. Let's take a commercial break, and then we'll come back for Remember Me in our plot discussion. So we'll be right back with more of the PikeCast. Wow, friends. Where else can you get this kind of programming than the PikeCast? Nowhere. That's where. But we're trying to keep the lights on here. If you like what you're hearing and want it to keep happening, jump over to our Patreon at thepikecast.com/Patreon and throw us a few bucks to join our private Discord server. Higher tiers get books, stickers, bookmarks, and even personalized shirts. That's thepikecast.com/Patreon.
Once, Osgood and Frost were the up-and-coming stars of the burgeoning paranormal investigation TV show craze before a hoax put an end to their friendship, partnership, and television careers. Now, over a decade later, Prudence Osgood is a barely functioning alcoholic ghost hunter for hire. Her yearning for mystery and adventure is reignited when she receives a cryptic, untraceable email. She can't resist embarking on an investigation that tugs threads, winding through a sinister series of disappearances, her former partner's family, and a night 20 years ago when a semi blew a yellow light and nearly killed her. Reviewers are calling Osgood Is Gone a masterfully vulnerable and relatable 21st century horror story, and a bourbon-soaked supernatural mystery with sparkling dialogue that sticks the landing on LGBT characters, and main character Prudence Osgood, as tortured as she is clever, broken in all the best ways, and a true heroine for our times. Buy it today at Osgood Is Gone as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook narrated by me, JJ Ronvier.
Welcome back to the PikeCast. Now we're moving into Remember Me, which is our discussion of plot. And as you notice, we went real hard off our discussions into plot during our character discussion.
Honestly, the plot itself is pretty simple. It's the lore that makes it complicated, because
That's true.
David's plot line is essentially what happened to him before, and
Right.
then he's being sent here on this sent to the listener compound on his assignment, and then he falls in love with Lucy, learns about the truth of things from Ned's side of the plot, and then everything just goes to shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's pretty much the story.
Why don't we start with David's past plot? Because while it is unnecessary, it is interesting.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
That I was reading it, and then I was like, how long is chapter 2? And then it was like, this is 60 pages of backstory. Pike, why do you always do this?
Meanwhile, I'm over here with 60 pages of backstory that involve like graphic stuff, and I'm like, yes, give me more. I love it.
I knew while I was reading it, I was like, oh, Kathy's going to be happy at least.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about David's past here. So, I want to read one of my favorite parts of these past stories is David's collection of hold-up notes.
Oh, yeah.
Give me your money or I will shoot it. Don't worry, I not kill you. I just want kill money. That's good. I like that. This is a stick up. Put your hands in the air and keep them there. Put your money in my bag. Don't be afraid. Sorry.
That was the one I was waiting for, because that was my favorite one. Don't be afraid. I have a gun.
Don't be afraid. I have a gun. And excuse me, this is a hold up. Sorry to wreck your great hair day. I really enjoyed those. What we see from David at the beginning is his instinct, and I thought it would be more important. You know, they talked a lot about how he got these hunches, and then it didn't happen. Like, he literally told his girlfriend the thing he shouldn't have told her, and then she went and, monstered. We get to see him set up a mafia sting, and then, fall in love with the mafia guy's secretary, and we know it's not going to be long for this world. She is a slim, dark blonde with lips the red of Christmas peppermint candy.
What?
It's very specific.
But it's also, I mean, peppermint candy is red and white.
Yeah, it's like striped swirled. Like,
yeah.
What is that? Are her lips? Like, she should get that checked.
Okay, so he set up a really cool vengeance thing where he blew up the car and then took the Mafia Don out into the desert with only a Bic lighter. I mean, it's like it's its own book, really.
Yeah.
And it not since From Dusk Till Dawn did I get such a dramatic tonal shift, I think. Because really, the beginning of this book sets up one thing. and delivers something very different. But I mean, it is Pike going to one of his two wells, lizard people or India. And sometimes he does India and lizard people. So, I mean, it's really, it's really going to be one of those two ways. But here it is. But you're FBI. David shook his head. I'm not one of the good guys. Duh, boom. So then we have him going after a serial killer?
Something
Or just
like
a
that.
kidnapper? I mean, a kidnapper who kidnapped a woman and is cutting her thumbs off. And that scene is very intense.
Yeah.
And very cinematic. Like, so much of this book lends itself to film.
But like in a good way, not like with the cold one where it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just
No,
like,
absolutely.
because it just felt so gratuitous in the cold one, whereas this one, it just feels like it just kind of naturally is
Yeah.
like visual stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would pay to see that ribcage scene. I'm just saying.
I understand.
No, very true. Very true. Let's talk about the big mind. Because this is the plot. And I mean, every time it said big mind in a Pike book, I read Big Mac. And so I was thrilled later when the Pikeism comes back. From the look and sound of him, the worst that Buckley could destroy would be a Big Mac at McDonald's. Boom! Pikeism. Anyway, it's really. So I did some research. The Dogon people are real.
Really?
The Syrian star system knowledge was legit. I mean, here's the thing. It's legit, but I don't know how deep the research goes.
Right.
So, like, you could say that Chariots of the Gods was legit in the 70s because it was research. It was documentary. To those who don't know what Chariots of the Gods were, it is basically this. Like, there were super intelligent beings from the stars that helped build the world. Ancient astronauts is also another way to put it. So we've got a lot of real here. And it's well done because you don't know where the fake starts, which is always nice. It reminded me of, I know a lot of people like to be really pretentious about this book, but it reminded me of the Da Vinci Code in that it pulls in enough real to ground and orient you and then throws you off by not letting you know what's not real and makes you want to do more research, I think. Because it made me think a lot about these ancient tribes like the Sumerians who all had this advanced astronomy knowledge. And one of the things that keeps coming up for me is there I forgot where I read it, but there was just this very simple statement. People in the past were as smart as people are now.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's so hard to wrap your mind around that sometimes, because there were exceedingly brilliant people in the past, and they may have had knowledge that showed them how to do things. Like it's actually asinine to think we are the only ones to have come up with inventions. What I'd love to know from our listeners, because we do have a diverse group of listeners, is of any examples of real, like, contemporary modern research into these historical things. Like now they talk a lot about how it wasn't slaves that built the pyramids. It were well-paid people who were lucky to get those jobs, and they had technology that helped them do it. But I want to learn more about that stuff. But there's so much that's just conjecture and bullshit.
Right.
It's hard to do.
How much History Channel stuff is dedicated to like the guy going like aliens?
Yes, exactly.
Iconic,
I read a thing that speculated that Ankhs were actually guides for kite strings, and kites moved the boulders for the rock for the pyramid. So when you hear something like that, it's like, oh, okay, I could see that. That makes sense. But you have no idea of the veracity of something like that at all.
Right.
Do you mean a kite like in the sky? Like you fly a kite?
Yeah, like very, very large parasails.
Well, that's the funny thing
much bigger.
because
Yeah.
people don't really think about it. It's like a kite is actually a very simple thing. There's no reason that
Yes.
people couldn't have been flying kites in ancient Egypt.
Right.
And just made them giant.
And with the expanse of a desert area where wind has the opportunity to build and build and build, you could theoretically use giant kites to move things. But again, we have no idea. And there's a lot of this in this book where it's just emphasizing that we don't know, that we don't understand, and that our perspective of the past is so limited.
Right.
Like, I'm looking for the discussion, but it was talking about how, from an anthropological standpoint, human history is like 8,000 years.
Right.
And everything else, we're getting into hundreds of thousands to millions of years.
Which is why they're doing this in the first place.
Yeah. And so we get the vastness of it. And I think that's a thing that is fun to struggle with, because it's the same thing that makes cosmic horror so scary, is because of the vastness of the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
There is so much that we actually don't understand that we think we do. And that's what really fascinated me about this plot. And really, I realize I have not talked much about the actual
but like
plot.
it's important because it shapes everything that they do. But also it's something that I think about a bit, is just like the various state, like I think we talked about this in the Starlight Crystal stuff. It's just like, I just like thinking about the how big the history of our planet has been.
Yeah.
I think both of you like wanting that, I think that really lines up with what the doctor wanted to, and that's why, like, I think those were his motivations. Like, he didn't want to have, like, he needed the twins for their power to be able to do that, because they said like it strengthened it having twins there, but he didn't want them to do the thing with each other because he didn't want a repeat of what happened to his wife.
Right.
But I think
Maybe he thought that having the big group would actually make it safe.
Yes.
Yeah. Margaret even says that the group couldn't have done it without the twins.
Yeah, and I think he just, like how you guys are saying, like he wanted that knowledge, like he wanted to go back and see how things began, like how far he could go back, and just because he would be the only person. Well, I mean, I guess they would too, but like they would be the first people to know this, and that's what he was interested in, like being the first to know this stuff. So.
He figured the second time that he could get away with playing with fire.
Yeah,
I've done this once. I know how to fix it if it goes wrong, and it's not like it can go wrong like that again. He doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't care about Vera and Lucy as much as he loved his wife. So he's like, whatever. What can, like, the worst?
If it goes wrong, I can just kill her again.
Yeah.
If Margaret is not his wife, which I'm still not convinced, I'm very curious what our audience thinks. He also has the added desire to learn more about what happened to his wife.
True.
Because it sounds like it was absolute chaos when this happened. So it's not like he gained a lot of extensive knowledge.
Right. It was a hellish night. And like he figured out enough that he had to kill her, but he doesn't necessarily know why. Like, we don't really ever get the fullness of his perspective on events.
And if you look at these people he's brought an Indian doctor who knows about the presumably all the historical mythology and truth of Indian mysticism. So he's also got the EEG guy, so he can monitor their brains while they're doing this and maybe look for the moment to cut it off. So he really has built a crew that could theoretically handle it. He just doesn't understand the depths of the horrors he's digging into, which is a very, I don't want to make it sound trite, but it's a common trope. I mean, it's everything in Lovecraft. I mean, you look at Jurassic Park,
Right.
it's all that we want to know these things. Isn't it great that we can know these things, but we probably shouldn't, but wouldn't it be great if we knew these things?
I mean, I can sympathize with that perspective, because there's just this whole, like, you do think you, like, just since you mentioned Jurassic Park, it's just like there is that whole thing where you think you have control of it. Like, you think you can kind of, like, okay, well, if it gets too hairy, we can just pull the plug.
And it does even call out the arrogance and ignorance of white men.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that line in there, but I was like, oh, good on you guys.
Deep Blue Sea. That's the only other one.
Oh,
the
yeah,
shark.
yeah.
They play with science.
I thought you were saying Deep Lucy, and I was like, what's Deep Lucy?
I thought you were saying Deep Lucy too.
No. It's a
like,
shark.
did I miss something?
No, deepest bluest.
Totally.
That is like a shark's fin.
Yeah.
And there's in the new Ghostbusters, Paul Rudd talks about that science is about recklessly giving yourself a disease and then trying to cure it. It's science. Science is essentially an unabashed travel toward knowledge. And a lot of science doesn't care who gets hurt in the pursuit of knowledge because of the potential benefit of knowledge. It's one of those, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, which is always a problematic thing to start talking about. Crickets. So, okay, I wanted to ask something. Cassie, do you remember the game they played in Remember Me, where they used her body as a Ouija board?
Yes, with her feet.
Yeah. That's what they're talking about here for educational kinesiology, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I've got to read that book.
Yeah, you should.
I have it right here. I just haven't
good.
gotten around to it yet.
Make that your next one. It's
I
very
did read
worth
Monster between this and the old one, and that was like, oh my God, that was like, the pacing in that was like lightning. Like, he was on his game with that book. It really is.
It's so good.
Like that. Like, if I was voting in that episode, that would have been a 5, like, easy.
Yeah, Monster will always be one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, same.
So good. Okay, so let's get David to this remote place that feels like it's in Central America, but it's in Idaho.
Which was so strange and was kind of foreshadowing.
How so?
Because near the end, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but near the end, as the storm is coming in, it feels tropical, and it felt like they were drawing in the ancient time. Like they said, it felt like it was becoming prehistoric.
Right. I really like that too, that note about the warm rain.
Yeah, it was so
because
creepy.
It is such a strange thing to feel warm rain, and you really would have only felt it if you lived in tropical climates where the rain is still warm. It's interesting. But so David Connor's first interaction with this group is to photograph a naked woman.
This scene.
That bothers me a lot.
Yeah. It's so weird, and he's just so not really. I mean, he's a little apologetic about it, and he's like, "Does it bother you?" Like,
he's so
I wasn't
nonchalant.
trying to be creepy. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. He's just like, "It's not a big deal. I'm a reporter, so I do this." First of all, no, you're not a reporter. You're not. I don't care what you're faking. What are you? That's not a cover. Right. Like, what?
Well, I will put out. It is possible he was not photographing her and was just using the lens in place of binoculars, because a lens looks like something a reporter would have. Binoculars looks like something a spy would have.
It's still gross because they think that
he's like, I didn't even have a good enough lens or whatever. Like, he mentions how his lens wasn't good enough to get a good clear
only long enough to fit a more powerful lens in my camera. Did you really take a picture of me naked? Of course, I'm a reporter. I need complete record of what goes on here.
And then
Like, what is that?
before he's there, they're like, could that be the reporter, the primal sex maniac? And it's like, I
Yeah.
guess freaking so.
It's okay. Lucy is so thirsty.
I know.
Like, desperately thirsty. It's been a long time since she's had a man she likes. I mean, she's hanging out with, Tom Forrester, John Horst, and Dr. Henry. So
I thought you said Dr. Forrester from MST3K.
Dr. Clayton Forrester?
Yes.
Now, hanging out with Dr. Clayton Forrester, now I just have this whole book where he is Professor Spear.
Oh, in that case, he would have been bringing the lizard people back on purpose.
Oh, yeah, totally. That would be fascinating. Oh, Trace Ballou. Okay. Let's see. Okay, there's a note here that I found interesting. And I think it goes toward what we want to determine for the ending. Because when the big mind comes through, Vera is gone emotionally. Right. So that's again suggests to me that some people can be fully taken over by the big mind the way they're taken over by the lizard people. Therefore, again, possibly Margaret was taken over by the big mind rather than being just a miracle baby. I still don't know how I feel about it all. So I'm not saying this is what it is, but it's a very fascinating way to go here. Okay, so they go through this regression thing and they go down their different, what is it, not cultural lines.
The DNA
lines or something?
Yeah.
The genetic
the
memory.
DNA lines. And I really like the idea of this rational thought barrier that they hit, because they get to a point where thoughts can't even be understood because they're not human thoughts. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, if you could actually hear your dog's thoughts, you wouldn't understand any of it because you're not a dog. You don't understand it. So listening back further and further and further, you cannot actually comprehend it because your brains are not built that way. It's interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of neat concepts in this book. And I wasn't, some of it I was like, that one is like, really interesting conceptually. I also like Dr. Henry discussing like the way the brain evolved over time. And that I didn't expect that to be important. And then it's a big twist near the end.
Yeah. And, we all talk about our lizard brain taking over.
Right.
And the idea that we were shown to fear three things and one of them was lizards. Like we instinctually fear three things. That is fascinating, if true. I don't know if it's true, but I'm fascinated.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I was like, I'm not sure that this explanation of the brain formation is accurate, but I can't tell. I don't know enough about the brain to be certain.
And I do feel like that's one of those things that, like, when we look at Pike's understanding of Indian history, we see that he is mostly accurate from the time he was writing. So we see the understanding of things he may have read in research for this. And like there's two books mentioned as a thank you in the beginning, one of which is by Carl Sagan.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I highly recommend everybody read all the Carl Sagan you can, because he is a beacon in a horrible world. Okay, so the books mentioned are Carl Sagan's The Dragons of Eden, which honestly sounds like lizard people, and Robert K.J. Temple for The Sirius Mystery. So I imagine these are two nonfiction books. I have not read this Carl Sagan book, but these are two nonfiction books that Pike read around the time he was developing this book, and then he incorporated a lot of what they were talking about into it. He seems to be the kind of person that elaborates on things but doesn't change the basic underlying information. So it feels like the brain thing, if not true, was at least true based on a scientific thing he read.
The serious mystery one, because I looked that up when I was starting the book, and it was it has the Dogon people in it, and it's about like ancient aliens who came to Earth, and like that's how they have like all this knowledge and stuff like that, like prehistoric like aliens.
It's all fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
We do have this line here that the big mind says about the human heart that it's the throne of God. I don't know how important that is because it doesn't come back up, but it's interesting. We've got some terrible flirting in here. That won't stop her from trying. By the way, guess who you're rooming next to? A silly redhead who swims naked in mountain lakes? Lucy frowned. Yes, her. She's rooming next to a pervert with a powerful lens. Are you implying that my camera is an extension of my penis? David asked. She's a psychologist, Vera muttered, turning a page. Yeah, that's terrible.
She sees penises everywhere.
Yeah.
So I had that part written down.
Yeah. So we watch one of these regressions, and Lucy appears to actually change to an Egyptian princess. And we later talk about it and how it's not a physical thing. It's about perception in the moment. So everyone involved is perceiving, and their perception is changing along with the regression itself, which is also I'm saying this way too much. Fascinating.
But I love that because it turns it into kind of a liminal space where they can't tell the present from the past. I also appreciated Pike acknowledging that Egyptians were black.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood can't seem to freaking do that.
Yeah. Isn't Angelina Jolie playing Cleopatra?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Is she?
I think so. Someone who does not look like an Egyptian is playing Cleopatra.
No, yeah.
Anyway, their regression to this black rite is our first glimpse into what is happening here. And someone gouges their own eyes out so as to not experience the black rite. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I see, the funny thing is when we did that, I thought it was just like kind of a random Pike graphic scene. I didn't realize it was going to be important later.
Right. No, absolutely. It felt like we're regressing to, here's a thing that happened. He does that. Yeah. The Dogons think that twins are evil. I feel so bad for this community. Because they're totally no, get her out of here. No, stop learning this stuff. No, don't do it. And then, of course, they do it, and then she eats some of the village.
Yeah.
Also, just the way that this white dude comes into this village and manipulates this young girl from the village into giving him information, lies to her and tells her things that he knows somebody would want to hear, I'll take you out of here and I'll buy you a house on the ocean. And that made me so angry, and I disliked him so much after that.
No, he's a scumbag.
And is fucking her.
Yes,
explicitly is
with
fucking
his
her.
wife. He's just gross.
It's just awful.
But it's not like the book is ever Steven Spears is a good guy.
That's true.
He's a scumbag. He everyone says he's an asshole.
If we go back to Jurassic Park again, John Hammond is a good man who did a bad thing.
In the movie. In the book, he's an asshole.
He is an asshole. And he gets eaten by compies. Mm-hmm. Amazing. But this guy is not a good man. And there's a bit here that makes me wonder how much of him is influenced by these creatures, because he talks about how every human who walks this planet is a savage animal and a cold reptile. It is only because we have trained our highly developed neocortexes to suppress these areas of functioning that we have been able to develop a civilized society. But he says that these are all abilities we should have, like the extrasensory perception, things like they're built into us. That is the goal of my research, to give back to man what he has lost. So is he trying to recreate? I mean, is his idea that these lizard people are actually pre-humans, like became human?
I don't know.
So therefore we have it?
I'm not sure that he connected those dots yet. I'm not sure he even completely understood what happened before.
Sure.
Possibly because of his brain kind of getting cooked a bit. Or if he did know, but he was withholding information. It definitely seemed like he thought, I can bring us the good with none of the bad if I can just get it right.
Yeah, exactly. Which is such hubris.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Which is a classic thing for a scientist, and it's
I mean, he's totally mad scientist, guys. Like, I will benefit mankind at any cost, even the destruction of mankind.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a throwaway line for David. He had never cared for lizards. They reminded him of the desert in Las Vegas, which immediately makes me think of Scavenger Hunt. Whenever we mention lizards in the desert, it's Scavenger Hunt. Which is so good. Oh, here it is. That human beings are born with 3 instinctive fears: afraid of the dark, of falling, and of reptiles. I want to know if that's true.
I mean, it doesn't sound true, but I don't know. It might have been true at a time.
Yeah. And that's why I think about, if we acknowledge Pike is giving us the information he understands up to the point of the writing. So 94.
Right. It's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, and we also still really don't know any of this. We just know what we currently think.
Right.
I'm just going to say I have a phobia. I do not like the dark, and I am not about to go falling off of anything. So I feel like the story checks out in all 3 cases for me.
Yeah, okay. So we have the scientific consensus of a person of 1. I also don't like falling. I'm afraid of falling. I don't really care about lizards.
That's the thing.
Lizards, if they have legs, they don't bother me. But legit snakes will fuck me up. If I see a snake, I can't even watch it in a movie. I'll have like a panic attack. It's really bad.
It's the funny thing, because a lot of it is speculation. Like, one of the things is, like, because when our distant, like, way back ancestors were lizards, is considered one of the reasons that we're probably afraid of spiders, because giant spiders used to hunt those lizards.
Well, that's fascinating.
Also, they're fucking terrifying.
Giant spiders?
Spiders in general, they got so many legs and they're always just coming at you so quick. It's like the opposite of this problem I have with snakes, because snakes come at you quick, but they ain't got no legs, so it freaks me out because they slither on their bellies and they're just like, I'm gonna get you, like Ursula in that one. I'm sorry, I'm going off again.
Hailey, you bring up the really interesting point there that, I mean, it's if we acknowledge what evolution shows us, we are all descended from one thing, one point.
Right.
And so if we look at if we even theorize at historical DNA memory, which has actually come up a bunch lately, is the DNA like of Holocaust survivors.
Yeah, it's been permanently altered.
Yes, it implants like historical trauma in descendants. And I'm not saying memory, because that's a different thing.
Right.
But the trauma exists. So that's interesting. But if you look at it like you mentioned with the lizards and the spiders, if we were all something at some point, then our instinct would be shaped by every turn in that DNA spiral there.
Right. And the lizards that knew to recognize the shape of a spider or to fear it were the ones who got a chance to reproduce.
Yeah.
And so on.
And there's that word again. Fascinating. Here's the discussion about the age of things. In daily life, you're used to thinking in years, at most decades. Until I met the Dogon, I was accustomed to thinking in terms of thousands of years. That's a long time. The average person cannot really imagine 1,000 years, never mind 8,000 years, the length of human history. They think they can, but they can't. You have to mold your point of view over a lifetime to develop that kind of perspective. Yet 8,000 years is nothing compared to 60 million years ago. It's a drop in the bucket.
Yep.
It is a fascinating vastness.
I love thinking about that stuff. I love it.
Me too. So we get the idea that this race of highly evolved lizard beings ultimately self-destructed and wiped themselves out, but also seem to have a bit of hive mind going on there. So they remained encoded in the DNA, and this act is what wakes them up. Am I thinking along that right?
That's how it looked. I mean, the thing is, like, it honestly, looking back, it feels like the whole thing of the brain twist should have been obvious, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
At least to me. I also thought it was interesting that they theorized that they traveled to different distant stars, and not through planets, but possibly teleporting, and possibly even just mentally teleporting, like just because it was projection. A shared mind. And I'm just like, and then like the possibility that there are colonies of lizard people who are just wondering, hey, when are we going to come back on Earth? And I'm just like, oh my God, like there's so much to this.
It's deep.
It is. And I'm just like, I was just like, this is Pike.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean to be completely insulting with that, but just after the Cold One, and just like just some of the books that, I've listened to on here, I was just like, this is so thoroughly developed.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the surface, it's very pulpy and sort of somewhat typical Pike.
Right.
But beneath, there's a richness to it.
Yeah. A lot of the little details intertwine, like in ways you don't expect. Like things that would be isolated in one of his sloppier books matter to each other here. Even the stuff like that seems disconnected, like David's past, comes back to matter in his trauma response, in his dream about like just
the scuba dream.
Yeah, it was just scuba diving, so another Pikeism. But I was just
exactly.
I was just like I was like, okay, Pike dream sequence, this is just gonna be some weird stuff. And it's like, no, this is dense, and this is harsh.
Yeah.
Like,
and the idea of the freezing of the pool.
Yeah.
While he's down.
The claw covering the sun. Mm-hmm. I was just like, what an image. And I was just, and it reminded me of this, I don't remember which, there's I don't know if it's Aztec, I think maybe, but this idea of this serpent that eats the sun like an egg. And it reminded me
during
of
the eclipse.
Right. And I was just like, but the claw slowly covering and snatching it was just like, and then him still freezing there afterwards, still like just permanently just always dying in the dark. And I'm just like, good God.
Yeah. And I also got, I don't know if anyone else got this, but like where we were talking about how the warm rain makes it feel like the tropical history of a location is re-emerging. Mm-hmm. The Las Vegas pool freezing made me feel the same way as that, because we had ice ages where Las Vegas is.
Right.
And we had tropical climates where Idaho is.
Right.
So in the unfathomably vast history of Earth, it's been all things.
Yeah.
Including endless volcanism, too, So it's really fascinating. Again, I gotta stop fucking using that word.
It is. It's hard. This book is that word though.
Yeah.
Like there's just, I I was just thoroughly impressed with this.
Me too. Okay. Oh, I have another thing that might make you think again about my is Margaret his wife thing. I never saw Penny's body. He buried it somewhere up on Lucian Point. I only have his word that he killed her. It seems
We'll
like
never
a
know.
weird thing to mention.
It is.
If he did kill her.
Right.
They mentioned too how they have all of the photographs of everybody, like the black and whites before for David, and they don't have one of Margaret. And when he gets there, he's like, we didn't have any intel on her. What the fuck? And he's just like, oh yeah, I don't know. That might be because so nobody recognizes her.
But David wouldn't know.
It's nuts.
Like.
It's nuts that like Pike leaves that
David
question
did
in
see
the
the
air.
picture. David saw the picture.
But he also mentioned that the twins look different. He was only seeing a passport picture, and those are never really indicative of a person.
Right.
I don't know.
We'll never know. It's just
no, we won't.
It's
Unless
up to
we finally
interpretation.
talk to Pike.
I don't know if he's going to remember this one because, like, he seemed okay. I don't mean that as insulting. He's written a lot of books.
No, that's
he
very
seemed
true.
He seemed to pin his hopes on certain ones over others, and that's the funny thing. Like looking at the grand scheme of Pike stuff, this feels like kind of a throwaway book, and yet it's so well done and dense.
Yeah, that's weird to think about that. And it did come so quickly on the heels of so many other books, too.
Right. Like a bunch of stuff came out between
95
94
was
and 95.
in his peak time.
Right. And it just feels like this is one that might have gotten lost in the cracks of the other bigger books. But this is one of the better ones. Like this, I thought this was great.
Yeah. When Professor Spear was delirious, he often spoke in a foreign language. And it sounded like a hissing language.
That was the funny question from Ned. It's like, did it sound like the language that an ancient species of reptile people would do?
Yeah, right.
He just asked
Did
the
it
doctor.
sound like a language of the race of reptiles?
He's like, now that you mention it, that very specific thing. Actually, yeah, I think there was a lot of hissing.
It was such a funny interaction.
But he also adds to it, assuming, hypothetically that there existed reptiles intelligent enough to, I don't know, develop a language.
Great FBI tactics.
Yeah, totally. Ned's at the top of his game.
Good old Flanders.
This is why they were making him retire.
Yeah. Will you stop fucking asking people about ancient alien languages?
Also, he probably, like, when he's like, he kicked that guy and he broke his foot, and they're just like, really? Like, this poor old dude, like,
yeah, totally.
He's just so feeble and, like, getting hurt and just doing the silliest little things. You need to go home.
It's time to call it a day. So, David finds out about all this stuff from Ned. And he decides, okay, well, first of all, he already told Lucy that he's an FBI agent, so he's not a good undercover person.
But it was a good boyfriend thing to do because I was true. Like, you can't sleep with her if you're not going to tell her that you're not actually a reporter. Like,
Very
you
true.
have to be straight with her on that, and he was.
But still, like a day in,
I know, but
he doesn't know her. He should not be in love with her.
I know.
The insta love in Pike's books is just something that you have to accept as
right. It's so Disney, but it's Disney while there's lizard people eating humans
that's
alive.
Very true.
And I'm just like, I kind of like that juxtaposition.
But I'm more willing to buy it when it's high schoolers because high schoolers are idiots.
That's fair.
And so they believe it. Oh, I love this. Yeah, that makes sense. But David has been through some shit.
So he even mentions, like, he says, this is the only girl that's been, like, sweet and sexy or whatever since Sandra, Samara. Sandy. Okay.
Samara.
I don't know. I was like, it's an S name. I don't think I got it the first time. Let me try again. I don't know, but yeah. So I feel like the insta love for this, and when he does it in the adult books, like in the Cold One, even where the guy was just like had this weird attraction to it,
right?
His sister, I don't know, whatever. But this was like it's not for nothing. At least
you could also make the argument that as he's sitting in on this session of group hypnosis and regression, possibly his perception was intermingled with hers, so it could develop a connection. You could theorize that.
And I was thinking that too, with the way the big mind was like, you got to stop waiting for things. Like your life,
that's
you're not
true.
going to get a sign that says it's time to start your life that's any bigger than right now.
Yeah. So then he tells her about the way to do it.
So much for that intuition.
Right. It's
Okay,
just funny because it's just like, here's how to do it. Now never do it.
Yeah. At the same time, this chapter is so well written. I absolutely love the paragraph starting with Lucy slowly exhaled, Vera slowly inhaled.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy inhaled, Vera exhaled. It's just over and over and over, and it's lulling you into this weird sense of sick. I mean, it
builds the dread really well.
It really does. I mean, and we're starting, like, this is Stephen King style, and that was the last time he'd ever see him, where it's like, and Lucy planned to do just that before leaving Camp Paradise. She was not worried that she or her sister would go insane. And she also, they kept few secrets from her, and it seemed like a minor lapse that Lucy had failed to tell Vera that what they were doing might be dangerous. It's very high level of dread foreshadowing.
Yeah. It's great, like, kind of just like, something bad's about to happen, right? We're getting closer. We're getting closer.
I need to read some of this. Lucy felt a definite pull inward, but it was not a gentle, expansive feeling as in a normal session. Rather, it was as if the very energy that gave life to her body was focusing in her head, but not between her eyebrows, as was symbolically depicted on yogis as a third eye on their foreheads. This energy, it was actually more of a sensation of power, moved over her face from sense to sense. It was in her eyes, then her mouth. It crawled up her nostrils where it burned slightly, like a parasitic firefly. Her ears tingled. She heard an unpleasant ringing that only ceased when another wave of thunder shook the room. Each sense, as it was touched by the power, grew in intensity, particularly her vision. She saw deeper into Vera's pupils, and they could have been bottomless. There's the prose here is so rich and deep.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a great example of just great prose. It was an example of just very extensive and deep prose.
It's scary, honestly. Yeah. Like, just to say it flatly.
Yeah, no, and this chapter is scary. I mean, we have this moment, only a mirror could turn away all light. Only a mirror could show what had always been present from the start, deep in the brain, waiting to crawl out and begin nibbling on the warm flesh of mammals. Truly, it was a wicked secret that only the conscious fusion of identical bodies and minds could open this portal to hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get a tiny bit of cosmic horror here. And it was possible that somewhere far off in the shimmering mist of the Milky Way, the old ones still lived.
Yeah.
Still watched the cradle of their civilization and wondered when it would spawn a new generation capable of doing battle with them.
Yeah. It's just one thing after another, and it's just, yeah.
Then this is the closest we have to what's actually to firmly define what's happening. And it's really interesting. Lucy went numb, Vera froze. Only one permanent host was required, although 2 nervous systems were needed to support the transition, to support the time between feeding and reproduction. So only one permanent host was required. Do you think that means it can jump between them? When we see Lucy, we see Lucy. When we see Vera, we see Vera.
There's a lot of points where it says it's Lucy, but it's actually Vera because the Vera lizard, because she took the crucifix off of Lucy to make herself look like Lucy.
Oh, did she officially do that?
Yeah, because then
like we know she did that.
Backhands the other, like she backhands her sister,
right?
Doesn't she?
Like she knocks Lucy. Vera knocks Lucy out at the point where it's completely like, yeah.
I see.
Yeah. that might be like similar, because I feel like when they were talking about earlier, like even Penny, like she got like thrown back or something they mentioned, and like
Yeah.
so I feel like it went into the other sister then too. So there is just like the one that gets overtaken, and the other one, like if they're not knocked out, I don't know what would happen, because we haven't really gotten to see that.
Right. Do you think there's any significance to the idea that one of the sisters is more outgoing and one of the sisters is more inward? And it
Yeah,
seems to be the same thing with Penny and Francis.
I think so. I think the one who has the more expressive outward personality is the one who's going to be kind of the support network, and the one who's more withdrawn is ready to become the lizard creature.
And it becomes then an idea of like a small ego is easier to overtake, I guess.
Maybe.
I thought it was interesting because I feel like if you're both of the twins that it happened to, like that got overtaken, they were the quieter ones. So I feel like that must require more holding yourself back. Like
they're the ones who listen. They're better listeners instead of talkers.
And they're withholding a part of themselves too. So once like something breaks and that reptile thing gets unlocked, that's why it's so easy for it to overtake everything else, because it's just like they're so like compartmentalized already.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to the other twin.
Yep.
I feel like the other twin is just too much, and maybe it can't overtake that.
That makes sense.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay, here's some gore. Her sister smiled with human lips, but the hands that reached out to touch Lucy's were claws. They tore into Lucy's flesh and casually ripped the skin off them, as if peeling the indigestible skin off vegetables. Blood dripped from Lucy's hand, and she moaned because she knew she didn't have the will to tear her eyes out. The thing inside Vera made a cruel hissing sound. So good. And then she goes down to visit John Horst.
It's a great scene.
It is a great scene, and it is a scene very much akin to the pulling the rib cage out.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's Vera. Vera goes to visit John Horst, and just like with one hand pulls all her clothes off. And he's just there, and he's all like, yeah, finally, someone's recognizing my manliness. And she just makes him submissive and subjugates him immediately. It's so good.
I thought it was really funny that he's such like a typical like full of himself person. Like he's just so like cocky that like when he thinks it's Lucy, he's like, oh, I never thought you found me attractive, because she's so vocal and open that she would have made that clear. Whereas the other girl is so quiet that he's like, I knew you liked me this whole time. Why? Because she didn't say anything? Like what the
right.
It's so gross. And I was glad to see him die.
And just her making it so slow on him.
Yeah. And making him do his thing. It's like, prove to me that you're worth anything, and I don't care. But we have this was saved for the thirst section, but it's worth reading now. She tossed her coat aside and then reached down and in one fluid motion pulled her gray sweatshirt up and over her head. She wore nothing underneath. He had never realized her breasts were so nicely shaped. Her erect nipples made his smile grow larger. He sure had impressed her.
Is smile like a euphemism?
Point. What?
Was smile a euphemism?
I don't know. I want to really, really briefly talk about this moment with Ned where he's trying to cross the washed away street. I found that so tense when he's driving through the water and it's getting deeper and he's just trying it's weird because it's 2 paragraphs and we know he's going to get there because there's no way Pike's going to let him just die off camera, not even making it. So it was really interesting how intense it was to me. And I just wrote in the margin, surprisingly intense. Okay, we're stampeding toward climax. That is one thing this book does, is it gives us information, and then climax.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I would have liked no, it's fine.
No, I would
I
have
want more information.
It felt a bit quick once we got there, but it was fine. Like I like how essentially Vera Lizard, she kills Professor Spears so fast.
Yeah.
But then it herds them all downstairs, and like they're just down there listening to Ned scream as she's turning him.
Oh, I think I have that. Well, I have a lot from this because it's some really scary writing. But Spear gets one great line before he dies. Even a blunt key can open Pandora's box once you know where to insert it. That's a great line. But here is Vera's arrival at the church where they're hiding. The doors at the rear of the church swung open with fanfare, as if the arrival of the royal virgin bride had just been announced. Nature was impressed. Lightning flashed at her back. Thunder sounded as she stepped forward. Her hair shone like an angry volcano. Her eyes burned like treasure. Her hood was thrown back. Her arms swung loose at her sides, yet it seemed as she moved that her feet never left the floor. They slithered over the stone slabs, newborn limbs rediscovering their way. Her feet were bare, her stance arrogant. Nothing in the church could threaten her, and she knew it. Her face was the worst nightmare of all, so beautiful, so inhuman. She reached the altar. Taking her time, she scanned each of them. Her gaze came to rest on David, and he understood what it felt like to be stabbed in the heart. Although no blade had ever broken his flesh, she wore the gold crucifix. She smiled. Who wants to be first? That's so good. Oh, I love it. It stared at him with eyes that had seen 1,000,000 species rise and perish. He wondered if its mind was always there, inside them, within all its thorny descendants, witnessing their trials, mocking their dreams, knowing that one day it would reawaken and wipe out all humankind as easily as it had wiped out its own race.
I just love when he kind of it's almost a detective moment when they're all down in the basement. And he just he kind of has that parlor room moment reveal where it's like, we are the Setians, we are the reptiles. We're not going to the past. We're just bringing up the hive mind,
the deep
that's always been that's been smothered by the limbic system and our human, minds.
Yeah. It's so good. Well, here's a line to David. You will be last. You will hear each of the others scream, and you will pray for their screams not to stop, because each time they do, another portion of your precious humanity dies. I know your mind, your deepest fears. You will pray for help, David Connor, to a God you know is not there, and he will not listen. Whew. Okay, so then we have Margaret being the big mind.
Right.
And that is about all the information we get about it.
It just stops, practically.
Yeah. So she's the big mind. They kill Lucy.
Yeah.
Who David still thinks is Vera, I think.
No, he's like cradling her and stuff. Like I think he knew it was her. That's why they transfer her into Vera.
Oh, is that what they do?
Yeah, Margaret takes Lucy's consciousness and puts it in Vera because they kill. She essentially holds Margaret essentially becomes twin Tupperware. They they kill Lucy to end the lizard thing, and Vera becomes just a shell, and then they put Lucy into Vera's body. Which we never get to find out what Lucy thinks of that exactly. I guess she gets over it considering the epilogue, but.
We are to assume that Vera is destroyed by this creature.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, it's just shattered through. Like, she's gone at that point. There's no bringing her back.
So, it's not as though David chose Lucy over Vera.
Right. Vera was already done.
Because that would be the selfish moment that you couldn't forget, I
Right.
think. Although Lucy does have to account for the fact that she did do this without
It's
telling
really
her
Lucy
sister it
who
might be
essentially
dangerous.
killed her sister.
Yeah.
I just realized too that when they're doing the group thing, like how Vera keeps, like, she has no memory of it. That's the creature trying to take her over during that. But because the twins aren't locked together, there's no mirror and it can't fully take her over. That's why she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't speak. She's trapped in her brain, but she's crying, like in that one time, like she was just sitting there crying, but she wasn't seeing the same thing everybody else is seeing. Like
she becomes a shell.
Yes, because
that's so
is trying to like claw its way out of her. That's horrifying.
Oh my God. I did not put those two things together. That's horrifying.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember it when she comes out. So she can't even tell them to stop. Like she can't even say, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Oh my God. That makes this so sad.
It is. It's really sad.
Oh my God.
Well, that brings us to epilogue, which in Pike tradition is very short.
Except in the Starlight Crystal.
Except, that's true. There are some that are very long, but all of them have epilogues. Let's be clear.
Still, I'm gonna be reeling from that all night. Just the idea that every one of these sessions that she was just had this thing trying to come up the back of her psyche, and she's just miserable and can't remember why she's so traumatized. Oh my God, that's a nightmare.
And they're all being just used by this doctor.
She was having nightmares the whole time. Remember, they were talking about how she was scared to sleep because she started having nightmares. That was memories of stuff. That was probably the thing, like trying to.
Oh my God.
That's true.
That's so tragic. Oh my God.
And then she's just dead at the end of it. She's just gone.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's going to be with me all night. Oh my God. That's terrible.
A little fucked up though, in retrospect, how the quiet ones are the ones that get destroyed and like
I know.
turn evil, and then the loud, gregarious, sexy, like let's go fuck, like they're just like the ones that get to live and have babies.
It's kind of a twist on like the slasher thing where it was like the virgin who lives.
That's true. That's true.
So the epilogue gives us the fact that David and Lucy are having a baby, and decide to call her Isis. And it's another one of Pike's little epilogues that kind of like, it's not a joke, but it feels like a joke in that it's like a stinger.
Yeah.
And it's completely unnecessary because I don't care.
I feel like they could have named her like Vera, and that's
what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. They should have named her
or
Vera.
even like maybe Margaret or something, but like Vera would have been better. Just like, why that?
Right.
Like, I mean, I get why in like a very loose sense of the way, but
yeah.
So that's the plot. It's actually a fairly concise and tight plot.
I think so.
As you mentioned at the beginning, Hailey, is that it feels like a lot, but it's ultimately a simple plot with a lot underneath. So it's sort of like an iceberg.
I love the little brief interaction where Ned is telling David to get one of the twins out of Iowa before something bad happens.
Yeah.
And David is like, kind of resisting, but Ned's like, remember, you told me to do this and I didn't listen and it fucked up everything. I'm telling you the same thing you were telling me now. Please listen. Yeah. And I was like, that was such a great interaction.
Yeah.
And
he didn't really listen though. I mean, he couldn't find the girl.
No, he didn't listen, but it was a great moment.
Ned tried. He did his best.
Did try. He did. Ned was doing the work.
I do feel like we could have done with only one FBI story.
I don't agree.
You
mean in the past? You mean the past?
I want.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant cut out Ned, and I was like, what?
I know both of you apparently just hate me and everything I stand for in regards to side parts of stories. But look, I could have done with more terrible stories from his FBI days. If they had put them in between in the book throughout, all the way to the end, that would have been. I would have been like, yes, there's so much, man. Like he went under the river, like the guy.
Actually, Cassie, when you put it that way, I would have liked it if those 60 pages had been broken up throughout the book.
Yeah. See that,
and then have it be more thematic.
Yeah.
The final ones.
Yeah.
But where it is we get information up front, and then the Rick and Morty episode where he says, I think stories should just start where they start. Don't go at the and then go back. So that's what we're doing here. We're starting in here's a whole lot about this psychic society, and then let's learn about your FBI history for a long time. But I think, with a little rearranging, this could be perfect, even if you didn't cut anything out. If you start with him arriving at the camp and then get backstory info.
Yeah.
If I was writing the movie, that's how I would do it.
I don't know, because if it had opened up with this guy taking pictures of a naked girl in a lake, I would have
also cut that
out.
No, when I say don't cut anything out, I mean you don't have to get rid of characters or FBI stories. I don't mean you don't have to get rid of the pervy stuff that's no longer acceptable to have in movies at all. Let's talk about the eternal enemy, because we have one.
Wait, it is literally an eternal enemy.
The Xenad.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Creatures.
The overall. I thought. Okay. Yeah.
And it is literally the eternal enemy. I have
they're
two
just doing
lines
their own
from them.
thing, though. Like
What?
they're just their own kind of. They're just their own kind of thing, though. Like
so when we step on an anthill, we don't care.
I try not to step on anthills because those bitches will bite you.
Okay, if you accidentally step on an anthill, you don't care.
Okay.
However many hundreds of ants you may have killed.
Okay.
But in the ant society, you're the eternal enemy.
Yes. Yeah,
you're the
exactly.
thing
That's
from
what
the
I'm
sky
saying.
that stepped on.
I'm not truly an enemy. I'm just my own bit doing about my business, like trying to eat. And maybe if the thing I want to eat is mammals and they look like tasty people, like I'll just go for it.
Though at the same time, I want to eat cows, but I don't go and make fun of the cows for thinking they're not just my food.
Yeah, okay.
This eternal enemy says, we are your master, made you, came before you. We can do anything.
Aren't they right, though? Didn't they?
Well, yes, they did, but that
doesn't make it right.
Okay.
It's still don't rub it in their face. Yes, you are better and awesome, but come on.
I can understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. But I will say, if you were one of the monsters, from their perspective, first of all, listen, they fucked everything up, and they're like, shit, like we've shit the bed here. We've ruined our own existence. That sucks. And as people, I feel like we can relate to that because sometimes we do that ourselves. And then all this time goes by and suddenly you're just like chilling in the dark, miserable place. And then there's this fucking window and you're like, whoa. And then you burst through and you're like, fucking food everywhere. Like, holy shit. Like, this is incredible. And the food stands up to you and is like, no. And you're like, what? Like, sit the fuck down, food. Like, I can understand it a little bit from the reptile perspective.
Let me put that in a different perspective.
Okay, go for it.
Instead of aliens, let's say it's Christopher Columbus and his people.
Well, okay.
And instead of humans in the present day, let's say it's indigenous people of America.
Okay, so it's different because both of the things, it's not like ants. So the ants they're not like down there thinking. Well, they do. Maybe they think, but you're saying because like they're of equal like.
Well, I'm just saying. Just because they don't think they're doing anything wrong doesn't mean they're not doing something wrong, which makes them the bad guy.
But it's in their programming. Like
I still think that makes them the bad guy.
Does it though? Because we eat chickens and we eat cows and stuff. Like, does that make us bad? Are we bad because we do? Like, I'm not trying to go on a big.
That's a bigger discussion,
right? But
I feel like that. But
from the perspective of like reptiles, like I can understand what they're saying and like.
They seem to look at the reptile people in this seem to look at us as them, but with way too much brain on top.
Yeah.
So they just think like we just got too big for our britches and need to settle down.
Yeah. So it's.
But is that not factual for them because they're advanced?
Right. Like, well, that's because we smothered them, and essentially we replaced all those psychic powers with intelligence and compassion. Well, not intelligence; they have
like empathy and things like that.
Empathy and compassion and stuff, which they see as failings.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So this is okay. So I'm grasping this a little bit easier now. So because they view the things that we view as good, like parts of humanity, as bad, they think that we're less than.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes them bad.
Well, I mean, again, it is perspective.
Right. If they all share a hive mind, then our individual aspects are unimportant. And like, why would you
Yeah.
care if I eat a bunch of you? And honestly, that's the whole Ender's Game problem.
Yeah.
Of just like that they didn't understand they were even killing anybody when they were trying to invade Earth and such, is just that because they thought we were all just fingers of a bigger organism.
Right.
But because these understand that that's not the case.
Right. The lizard people in this know that we have
It's like an
individuals,
evil
and they just
thing.
think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand this. All right, I understand where you're coming. I still think
It's like
so I
if
will
we
say from
started
the, like,
killing dogs
nurture,
because
like,
they're smart.
yeah, no, I don't. Well, yeah.
Or dolphins because they're smart.
There are some
It's like-
people who believe that, though.
Well, I get it.
But I feel like some of the, like, so then what would be the alternative then for this race? Like if they eat people,
I don't know. Maybe accept your time has come and, don't come back.
Cooper, nobody's gonna do that. No, like,
But that doesn't.
Well,
I guess the idea is that just because that I mean, it doesn't seem like coexistence is possible in this instance, because everything that we see as something valuable is something they see as a waste, and we see that their killing is destructive because they did it already.
Mm-hmm.
So they are basically Akasha in this from Queen of the Damned.
Okay.
And they come back and they're like, I'm superior, so I'm going to drink all of your blood and kill and litter the beach with bodies of humans that are dead now.
Right.
And Akasha's evil. Like, that is, like, she's bad. So they're bad.
Yeah.
I'm just trying, because part of me, so I don't know if it's normal that part of me is thinking like, okay, cool, I get what you're saying. But then on the other part, I'm just like, but if I was a lizard person, like,
Are you empathizing
here's
with
the
these
thing.
creatures?
I think that's what I'm doing too much, and I don't know how to stop it.
See, so Cassie, here's the thing: they would see your empathizing with them as weakness.
Yeah.
And then they would eat me.
But I think it is a good thing that you can have that capacity while also understanding that there's just no way that they would allow that to continue. Like, it's the whole tolerance paradox.
Yeah. Can you be intolerant of intolerance?
Right.
What a mindfuck this book is. So much deeper
It
than
really
I thought initially.
is.
Yeah.
Right.
Damn. And I read this when I was like 14. What the hell, little Cassie?
I see where you're going with all this, Cassie. And here's what I would say is, if the creatures were fine with killing us because we were doing the same things as them, because we were nearing our own obliteration, because there are oblique references to that, how humankind will do the same thing, wipe ourselves out the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
Then that would give them a tiny touch of moral superiority, which might make it more okay.
Then it would be more understandable for them?
What?
Would it then be more understandable for them to do it?
I think it would be more understandable, yeah.
But they are explicitly cruel about this stuff. Like, they seem to enjoy causing pain and misery.
The way it happened in ancient Egypt, with forcing the people to look into the eyes of that wasn't, you're not they weren't even raising these creatures. It was, okay, we're going to do this now. And if you don't want to, you got to gouge your eyes out.
Which is decidedly evil.
Okay.
Yes.
It's one of those things, like, are we the baddies kind of situation?
Oh, yeah, right, exactly.
I understand. I think it's probably something that me personally struggle with. Just like, also,
no,
like,
I understand. I totally understand. I just think when you go to the end of that line of thought, there's just no way to.
Yeah.
Like, you're looking at something that's genocidal, essentially.
And they're only trying to destroy. They're not trying to build anything back up.
And it's just.
Well,
like,
I mean, they're trying to build their society, but it's their
then
society
destroy it
literally
again
everything
versus
else.
ours. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they have no regard for anything else. Which,
right.
And I think mentioning the genocide aspect, that it is that.
Mm-hmm.
It's any society that thinks they're inherently better than another society and destroys it in order to take it.
I understand that more. The overall thing, I think where I was getting stuck is from a more like individual level of like,
this creature just wanting to
Oh,
live
I
and come
see.
back.
But they
and,
don't
like,
even see it that way, though.
no,
Yeah, I don't
they're
think they're
hive. So they're basically like the Borg,
so-
and they're just like, we're going
Yeah.
to assimilate you,
Right.
but eat you. And they're just
Right.
like, well, we don't want that. We want to stay.
Yeah, you either get eaten
people.
or you get turned into another lizard person.
Yeah. Okay. Which, yeah. And I can understand the Borg not being good. Although I will, fun fact for me, when I was like 12 years old, I got into a very similar argument with my dad about the Borg. So that's a whole other thing that just reminded me like of
So
this
you
whole
identify
conversation.
slightly with a hive mind.
I think, I don't know. I honestly don't know what I identify with. I think it's just,
I mean, I get it. It's a community.
I think I don't specifically identify with one thing, and that's why I
Yeah.
can see it from so many different ways.
Absolutely.
I think that's what it is.
And also, there's nothing wrong with it, Cassie.
As long as I'm not eating people, I agree.
No, I mean, the moment you start eating people, I will get upset about that.
No, good. And
Okay.
unlike the lizards, I do have empathy. So.
I will call you the eternal enemy if you decide to start eating people.
Okay, good. That's a deal.
Is that fair?
Yes, that's totally
Okay,
fair.
good. Sorry.
It's a good agreement, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, you do the same. If I
Yes.
start eating people, I'm the eternal enemy. Okay.
Yes, same for
Okay.
you, Hailey. Just so you know.
Yeah,
Hailey,
sure. I figured.
You can be part of this pack.
Yes.
Well, let's move into Thirst, where we talk titillation and sexuality in Pike's world. Oh, Lucy is so thirsty. Oh my God.
I need to pick out one particular moment because
Yes, please.
it is something that feels like a Pikeism at this point. They're talking about David coming, the reporter coming in. It's like Lucy's like, and she's, Lucy's gone skinny dipping. Vera frowned. It's like, what if he shows up while we're swimming? Because she wants Vera to come in with her. And Lucy says, then he'll see us naked. He'll get all excited and probably want to have sex. But because we look exactly alike, he won't know which one of us to jump. So he'll probably just have to have us both at the same time. And I am just like, what is with you and the twin cest stuff? Like Pike is so weird.
I mean, it is weird. It's just, I know that right now everything is about, all the porn is about siblings.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, that's better than, I don't know that it's better. It's different than twin incest. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I would use better, but I
can't say better.
It is different.
It's different.
Also, I don't have the exact quote, but Lucy's old boyfriend Neil ate a pizza off her belly.
I have that quote.
And that made her
ordered out for pizza, and when he ate it off her belly, she came before he could burp.
What the fuck?
That doesn't make any sense. Why does that make her orgasm?
Possibly he was fingering her at the same time.
No. We just reject it completely.
Completely I reject that. There's nothing.
That's good because you don't want pepper flakes in the vagina.
You don't want the cheese there. You don't want the sauce. You don't want
anything
but
there.
Specifically pepper flakes.
So weird.
that was a bizarro. That whole side jaunt into that story where he's giving her LSD and ecstasy. It felt so out there, and I don't know what that was about at all. Thankfully, it wasn't too long.
Yeah. When they're doing the spoons thing at the table, and it's talking about John, it's like he continued to rub the spot on the spoon as if hoping it would climax.
Oh my God, I missed that.
I don't know how I missed that too. Yeah.
Wow. That is a horny sentence.
These are things I would not think while I'm I would never have associated so many of these things with the other things.
I think that's pretty normal, Cassie.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah. Don't worry.
A weird one.
This is also a guy who has to write sex for teens. So he's often having to come up with metaphors.
Right, but
to
this
explain
is where he goes all wild and he's like, yes, my R rating.
I know. Now he's unleashed.
And this is Pike Unleashed.
This
is Pike Unleashed.
This is the adult version.
We do have a moment where they
Pike
do the
at night.
Yes, after dark, Pike After Dark.
Oh my God.
We do have a weird Pike After Dark would have been a great title for this chapter.
Honestly, we should missed opportunity fucking a year into it.
We have a side comment about Pike's weird idea that HIV and herpes are basically the same. He was so afraid of catching HIV or herpes or whatever that he always wore 2 condoms whenever we made love. Do you know how long it takes to put on 2 condoms? His dick was so insulated, I always felt like I had a plastic pear inside of me. You mean a plastic banana? No, a pear. That was the other thing wrong with Neil.
Out loud to Rich because I was laughing so hard when I was reading it.
What a bizarro paragraph.
And I will forever have that. I highlighted it, so it's in my book now. So if I ever get rid of this copy, whoever gets it, 3 highlights in this book, and that's one of them.
Is it from your old highlights or your new highlights?
No, that was from this morning, my friend.
Oh my.
I was ready with my little highlighter, and that earned it for me. So
here's more thirst. She ran a hand through his hair. She wanted him so bad. Could they do it in the boat? Would it sink? Would she care? Yeah. Woo. She's got it bad. Anyone have any others?
I'm all out.
I don't have any of those.
All right. Well, let's move into Die Softly, which is moralizing and problematic elements in the writing and plot. I mean, we've already mentioned that the gay thing is a little iffy, but it's iffy in that early 90s way. There is a weird exchange here where David shrugged. I have friends who are gay. Sometimes I've thought of becoming gay myself.
That was my what the fuck note. That's one of my other 3 highlights.
But then Lucy paused. Really? What's the matter? Are you homophobic? No, it's just that you don't act gay.
Yeah, I had that written down.
Yeah.
It's a very strange back and forth there.
It's just, I don't, from both sides, it's just, I will grant it that it's not, like, horrible. Like, it could have been really bad.
Awful. Yeah.
It's just,
it's a microaggression.
It is.
And it's like a really like ham-fisted way of like, look at me, I'm including things and not being bad with them, and it's like, well, but you.
I mean,
you're not doing as good as you think you are.
Compared to his contemporaries, this is pretty tame.
Agreed.
Yes.
And compared to himself sometimes.
Yes, that's true too.
Yeah.
Like last week, we had a gay.
Yeah.
So you know.
That one was a bit older too, so I think maybe that might have been like a
80s.
vernacular thing,
or 89. Yeah. He's learning in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into the season of passage, where we discuss the best and worst writing and Pikeisms. We already mentioned the McDonald's Pikeism.
McDonald's, twin cess, skinny dipping, scuba diving, and fat phobia.
Yep.
All the classics.
Checks all the Pike boxes.
All the classics.
And lizard people.
Lizard people, yes. Yes.
I didn't even write that as a Pikeism because it was so core to the plot, but it is a Pikeism at this point.
It is. Yeah. So many lizard, really, to anyone doing a Pike TV show, let's say anyone currently doing one for Netflix, you could really combine a lot of the lizard people plots and make an epic lizard people series.
I disagree with you, because if you do that, they're going to try to combine it, and I want them all alone. I want maximum enjoyment. I want a whole entire book of each one.
What I would like is if they were separate stories, but they were all the same continuity.
Ooh, I like that.
So like one Pike verse?
Yeah, one lizard centered Pike verse, but like you've got Scavenger Hunt as kind of the small introduction to it. You've got the listeners to kind of give the scope of it, and then you can kind of get into Season of Passage with just
Scavenger Hunt could exist in this universe.
That is true. I was thinking that because I haven't read it yet. I have it here, but you guys got to lizard people and started getting really into it, and I was like, I need to stop this episode.
Yeah, Scavenger Hunt is like the teen version of this book.
Right. I was like, I need this book. And it's like, I was thinking that when I got into that for this one, I was just like, these could coexist for all we know.
I think so not just the reptile ones, but if we combined also the space vampires, because they're all just like space
monster.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good, and I really need them to do this.
I really think that could all be one continuity.
Yeah, they're
Yes, you
variants
could.
on the same thing.
But I don't want them to like try to put like scenes from Monster
No,
with
Oh, I
this
see
one.
what.
Is
No,
what I don't want.
I'm more like, yeah, just
I want them
let
to
it
each
be
story.
individual. Let it be an
Yes.
anthology. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
here for that.
That would
Yeah.
be awesome.
I have one quote, and I don't know where else to put it. I was like, oh, that dates this, and is
Oh, I
very
have some
like,
of those too. Yeah.
okay. So
Go
the
for
one
it.
I have is the tire exploded like a Tanya Harding alibi,
Yes.
because I read that and I was like, oh,
Oh my
okay.
God, that was so good.
Yeah, that was like a very clear, and also like I looked that made me go back, and I was like in 1995. Okay,
Yeah.
this is like right after. That makes sense.
That's something that still gets brought up today.
Yeah, it is.
And it's
Yeah.
just
I mean,
I have
it is bizarre how still relevant that comment is.
I have two bits of good writing.
Okay, give them to us.
One that I liked a lot was with Neil talking to David. He said, "You know the story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden?" David, yes. Ned sounded scared. I think that story had a lot of truth in it.
Yeah, I like that
I like
a lot.
that. Like that just had like just even though you know everything already by that point, just had this ominous feel.
You know how we're talking about how it's like a cultural knowledge thing that we've got, and once you accept the Bible as I'm going to get in trouble mythology, and accept that it was taken from a lot of other sources of mythology, and then you start to add that to ancient lizard people. Then you get the idea, well, if this is all allegory, but it's about a person learning unknowable information from a serpent.
Right.
And society getting all pissed off, God in this case, getting all pissed off about it.
Right.
So it's really interesting when you look at that kind of thing through this lens.
Yes. Okay, and then I had one other, and it was
Yes.
as Big Mind was talking to David and said, "Can any wave, no matter how big, leave the ocean depleted? I tell you seriously, another wave comes soon, one that can safely take you all the way to the shore. Yet your eyes stay fixed on the horizon. One miracle is not enough for you. You keep waiting for another and another, the perfect wave to rise out of the sea. But time goes on, the sun nears the horizon, your life passes. What are you waiting for, David?"
That's great. And you have a very good Big Mind voice.
Oh, thanks. That's all I got.
Yeah. I have a bunch of the noir type stuff. The first thing he told her was a lie. It would be the same with the last, when he said everything would be all right.
Damn.
That's so like hard-boiled detective. He arrived just in time to catch the midnight special into the land of nightmares. I love it. This I really liked. He had been raised Catholic and realized that guilt didn't vanish with the religion habit. It only changed clothing.
That is good.
And the beep of her fluttering heart sounded like a broken answering machine. I'm not at home at present. Please leave a message, and if I don't die, I'll call you back. So that's my good. I've got some weird. This probably could fall in the... I didn't know what to do with this line, honestly. By his best calculations, he had 5 minutes before his Japanese-made sports coupe revisited Hiroshima. That feels like a problematic thing.
I don't think I understood it when I read it.
I'm still not quite sure what he's saying. But it feels like a go back to Asia kind of thing and also get nuked. I don't know. It's weird. Maybe I'm completely misinterpreting that. Shadows clung to the structure like black halos did to TV evangelists. I like that. I'm not sure what it means, but all right. This I love because I'm a pedantic asshole. You mean all these years I've been calling that monster Frankenstein and I was wrong? I'm always Frankenstein was the doctor, not the monster guy. Yeah, because I'm a pedantic asshole. But this I pulled out for Cassie alone. Are you ready, Cassie?
I'm ready.
John Horst had grown up on a dirt grown up dirt poor on a dairy farm outside of Stockholm, where the cows stared at him as if he were a sex offender. He hated the smell of their udders. When he milked them, he felt like an overgrown nurse in pediatrics ward, tending to infants who resented females' breasts. To this day, he couldn't stand the taste of milk.
It's terrible.
Just for you, Cassie.
Always with the milk.
I know, right?
Like, why?
And I have two that I think are bad, but I really don't know. He was the son Ned never had, but he was not the good son. He kept breaking things, like Ned's heart.
It's just cut to Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, yeah, the bad son. Yeah, the good son, right. Yeah. The Bad Seed is the other movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on a carnival roller coaster, and all the operators were smoking dope. All right. And I do have a moment that I just like, but that doesn't belong anywhere. In reality, he didn't want anyone to touch his bag because he was packing a special FBI cellular phone, an ultra-portable laptop computer, and his 10-millimeter semi-automatic pistol. This is 95, so I want to know how gigantic the FBI cellular phone was and how unbelievably heavy an ultra-portable laptop computer was. That's what I got. Anyone have anything else?
I do not.
I don't either.
Let's move into last act, where we give final thoughts and ratings out of 5 pikes. You get to go first, Hailey.
Well, I'm going to give this 4.5.
4.5.
And my half will be however way you can like put in a microcosm that weird pilot who flies Ned and is talking about how his wife is cheating on him and doesn't clean up, and like however just put that in a bubble.
What
that
if it's
sequence,
in a snow globe?
Right? Just put that
And
in
it's
a
just
snow
like
globe.
you press a button and you just listen to him talking about it.
Yes, so that's the
Okay.
half. So that's my rating.
Cassie, how about you?
I am going to give it, I'm going to give it 4 pikes and then a half, and I'm going to give, the half is going to be made up of a stack of those pictures he took of Lucy in the lake, and they're all on fire, so he never gets them again.
Oh my
Nobody
God.
gets to see those. They're gone forever now. Because I will not forget those.
Wow.
That was rude. He shouldn't have done it.
Wow.
So now they're burned with my rating.
Okay.
But I like the book, so it was fine.
I'm going to give it 5. I really enjoyed this. Like some of these books are definitely a slog to get through, and it's about scheduling time to read. And this is one that I wanted to get back to it. I got to a point, it's just like, I want to read more. I want to wake up early and read more. And whenever that happens, it's a notable thing, I think. And it is some of Pike's best work and his most terrifying work. Like this and Season of Passage are scary books. And I can't say that about most books in general. So I will say number 5, the 5th Pike, is, as a photographer who has a big lens, it's a zoom lens. That's the 5th one.
I think I imagine you in like the desert after the last 3 books we just had to read, and you're just like, 5, anything else, please, 5. Like, just fucking get me away from this goddamn Final Friend stuff.
So what you're saying is I've allowed Final Friends to influence me?
No, I totally believe that you like this. So I'm not discounting your career. I just think it's so funny.
No, but it was like an
were.
oasis in the desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Final Friends.
It's really funny. Thank you so much, Hailey, again for being here.
Yes,
oh yeah, I was
really
happy to be here.
And Hailey, I mean, if you want to continue this streak of adult Pike books, you could jump on board for Sadie. I don't know what it is.
I don't know how to say that either.
But it's coming up. We could put you on. Just think about it. Before that, though, Hailey, where can our listeners find more about you and buy your stuff?
Yeah, you can find more about me and my stuff at www.haileypiper.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Hailey Piper Says, and on Instagram at Hailey Piper Fights.
Hailey Piper Fights. That's aggressive for Instagram.
I mean, it's that's how Instagram is.
That's fair.
Well, then, absolutely. Cassie, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ControlAltCassie, CTRLALTCASSIE, and then I also have a shop at shopletsgetgalactic.com.
You can find me at coopersbeckett.com and on all the social media at Cooper S. Beckett. And Cassie, where can they find our show?
You can find us on social media at the PikeCast, on Goodreads if you want to read with us, or on Patreon at patreon.com/thepikecast, where you can read with us, get early access to our episodes, and get some free merch. Well, merch as a part of the...
Say,
and get some merch.
Yeah, and get some merch. And your homework for next time, Pikers, is 1990's See You Later. Thank you again, Hailey, and to everyone out there, pleasant dreams.
Woo!
You survived the night, friends. You can peek out from under your covers and see the first blues of dawn out the window. Thanks for spending the night with the PikeCast, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Until then, Pikers, pleasant dreams.
FBI agent David Connor is investigating the listeners, a channeling group that seems to have access to highly classified information. Sorry, I dropped the book.
That's okay. He chewed 4 Tylenol dry on the drive-in. Dry. He chewed 4 Tylenol dry on the drive-in and was wondering if they needed a gulp of whiskey to start working.
I got thrown off because I didn't understand that you had messed up, and I legit was like, my eyes just froze. I was like, am I in like a time loop? Like, what the fuck is happening?
Very
like,
small
Groundhog Day situation. Way too much today. Like, I just sat here and I was like, what's happening? Like, am I imagining this?
Time skipped.
God, that was so weird. Don't do that to me again, please. Oh, gosh. Okay, sorry. Yes.
Like Jim Carrey version or a cartoon like video game version?
Jim Carrey, what?
All right, okay.
Wait, what?
What is it?
Or you mean Dr. Robotnik?
Wait, who am I thinking of?
Oh, that Dr. is Dr. Robotnik. No.
Yeah, I always put them together.
Well, that's because they were in a comic together.
Were they?
Yeah. Sonic and Mega Man had a crossover, and
boom!
And Dr. Wily and Dr. Robotnik became best friends.
Well, I mean, they basically are the same character.
I was going to ask how I was like, was Jim Carrey? Did they have a movie like
right,
this?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, is there a Mega Man movie?
I got excited for a second. I was like, what the heck? Oh,
I don't know. Netflix was talking about a Mega Man TV show.
That'd be neat.
I would watch it.
It'd be interesting if each episode focused on a different villain. But you could watch them in any order.
So like each one's like a standalone almost?
Yeah.
Huh. So it's like more like an anthology sort of?
And then the last one is the boss. See, because Mega Man's classic play style is you can play any of them at any time.
They should have done that with the comics.
They should have.
Missed opportunity.
I think, there's a big missed opportunity if you don't do it like that. Anyway, back to this.
Random Mega Man conversation in this. No big deal. Oh, God, I won't go off very long, I promise. Let me just tell you one story. Really quick. Okay. When I was little, my dad would take me to like Blockbuster, and I would get to pick one movie. My dad would pick like 3 because he's grown, And so I was a little creep. So I was like 8 years old, and I would do this every single time. I would go to the scary aisle, obviously, because duh. And then I would stand at one side, and my dad didn't like scary movies. So I would be by myself, and I'd be too scared to stop because all the covers scared me too much. So I would run, grab one at random, get to the other side, go to the PG section, and then read the back and look at it so I could see if it was good. And then if I didn't like that one, or if it was like, I would usually look for long run time because I was like, I'll get the longest movie that my dad has to sit through because I can only pick one. Like, this is the smartest way to do it. And so I'd be like, no, this one's only like 60 minutes long. I'd run back, throw it back, grab another one, run back to the other thing. Like, I would do it like 20 times, and the staff would just look at me like I was like nuts. And my dad's like, can you stop running around the store? And I'm like, I gotta find a movie. I gotta find one. And like, it was just, anyways, now you guys know that.
That is a fascinating.
So the covers. Yeah.
You have amazing stories, Cassie.
You do.
Little Cassie was hilarious.
I did used to put my hand up so I wouldn't see the Chucky covers because I was scared of Chucky back then.
Now, I will say, Cassie, though, that you probably know this, but looking for longer movies in the horror section, you're missing most of the good ones.
Okay, well, look, to be fair, when you're a poor child that doesn't often get things, you look for the book with the longest pages, regardless of what it's about. You look for the movie with the longest runtime. And something that like Rich and my boyfriend and I talk about a lot is that now as adults, because our time is like we have so limited amounts of time, now I look for the shorter things. I'm like novellas and like short, like quick, easy things that I can just digest. Like it's so wild how different it is because that was such an appeal to me when I was younger, and now it's such a drawback if something's too thick or too long.
Same.
And then you think about death.
I mean, I was thinking about how long I went on a tangent, but I guess we can think about death.
No, I mean, that's where I go with that. It's like, I only have so much time.
No, yeah, I think I do think about that a lot. I'm like, I can never read all the books I want to read or watch all the movies. I think about that all the time, and I'll just stare. And then I'm like, why don't you just start a book now? And I'm like, no, I can't. I just have to sit and stare at them and be sad.
You can be sad with a book.
That's true. Well, you can be sad with piles of books around you, which is my preferred way. And then you just sit and stew in your book fortress. And you're still sad, but you're surrounded by books, so it's better.
Oh, my.
Is Francis the last character?
Let's get back to Francis here.